Welcome everyone to the Five Play YouTube channel, open mic number 187 on this big time football Sunday for all the fans out there that I'm sure that are watching football. I didn't even really think about it when I did it because I
Go
typically don't.
Chiefs!
Yes.
I,
Woo!
I typically don't watch too much pro ball, but since the Lions are in it this year, I've been watching a little bit. So
Is
hope
the game
everyone's
over
doing well
yet,
today.
Rhonda?
I think it's got about 2
Sorry,
minutes
Jeff.
left.
It's all right.
Yeah, same score, 17-7.
17-7. 2 minutes and 38 seconds. So about 8 minutes left.
So,
Yeah. Yay.
So it looks like it's going to be the Chiefs, and whoever wins the Lions
Hopefully.
49ers game.
Hopefully the 49ers.
Right?
Hey, cut it out now. Don't be like that. Don't be a negative Nancy.
Oh, come on. You know me by now. I'm actually a 49ers fan. So to see both teams that I like to, watch, it'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, but Detroit hasn't been here in 20 plus years, so.
Yeah, that's true. That does make them the underdog.
Yeah. Good luck, Anthony D. They got Mahomes to deal with.
There you go, Anthony.
No.
Got somebody in my corner. Thanks, Anthony. Appreciate it, man.
Oh.
True crime fangirl too. That's right, my neighbor. All right, we're going to jump back in tonight, back into the depositions. The first one that's up is going to be Lenk. Actually, for today or for the 11th, I'll just tell you the names. It's Lenk, Ramona, Marcelle, which we've talked about, and when we get to it, I'll explain a little bit more. And the third one on the 11th of October is Sandra Morris. Now, Sandra, we probably won't get to Sandra Morris's. Hers is 72 pages anyway, but I doubt that we're going to get there because Lenk's is going to be probably about 45 pages. Ramona Marcelle is going to be probably 50 pages, something like that. So we're not going to have time to get to the last one. So anyway, Susan, can you go down the list here and we'll greet everyone that's showed up on this Football Friday? I figured we'd have a little more limited crowd after I thought about it. But yeah, I'll get this document up.
Yeah. It looks like Trav was the first in today. Welcome, Trav. Thanks for being here. JD is in chat. Hello, JD. Jazz Naz. Hey, Jazz. True Crime Fangirls with us. Nan's Life 7. Passive Bear. Zelma Lopez. Hello, everyone. Pete Moss. Gotta say it. Wooden Palette. Gloria is with us. Did I say Anthony D? Hi, Anthony. Sverre Egeland is here from not Sweden, but Norway, I think. Ronald D. Cass from the Missouri Ozarks. Hey, Ronald K is in chat and in Texas at the moment, I think. And that's what we have so far in chat, Jack. And welcome to all the lurkers out there. There must be quite a few.
Yeah, probably. All right. So, greetings everyone. Thanks for coming. I know not everyone is interested in pro ball, so this is a good diversion. I am, like I said, I kind of am this year because Detroit's not been here in so long. I like to see them, well, at least get this far. I mean, it's a huge accomplishment compared to the previous dismal seasons they've had. Oh my God, they've been.
A couple of years ago, it was really bad.
Oh, it's been terrible for them. They've just had it's been bad. So good luck to all of them.
Yep.
I just started watching the Chiefs this year.
Oh,
Again,
really?
first time I've watched football in years. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just kind of stop following pro ball. I follow a lot of hockey, and of course the Red Wings are doing really well this year too. So I don't know if they're I don't know. They've been playing really well in the playoffs, or this leading up to the playoffs here. It's been really good. Definitely in the wild card they won last night, so it's great. Anyway, let's get rolling here. So I guess we're gonna have to
Jack,
we'll split these.
sorry,
Yeah,
did you
yeah.
drop? Do we have the? Did you give us a link for that deposition?
There's all three of these are in the open mic text room.
Oh, I forgot
And you
about
can
that.
grab. It's all right. You can take a look you can see here. Let's scroll down through here. This is October 11th. I don't know what they did that morning, but this is the first one. It was 11:08. And we'll get the lawyers split up here and the talkers. Of course, we got Glenn and Kelly. And then we have this Amanda Kaiser. And she represented Vogel in Manitowoc County, Bascom, Amy Dole, John Mayer. Amy Dole, of course, a lawyer from looks like Crevillian, Carlson. Anyway, I thought she was a DOJ lawyer. On behalf of Casark in Manitowoc County, John Mayer, another Casark lawyer, and Steve was there as well. And then we got Glenn. Examination, yeah. Okay, Glenn and Dole did the exam. Got a couple. It looked like an exhibit. And then, so for today, what we're going to have to do, we'll split this up. If I'm going to expand this a little bit, it's a little easier to read for me. Me. Rhonda, if you would do Glenn, do the questions, and Susan, if you can be Lenk, do the answers. I'll do the court, or I mean not the court, but the reporter and all the lawyers.
You want me to do Glenn and Kelly, or just Glenn?
Yeah. Glenn and Kelly, please.
Okay.
Yeah, if Kelly pops in here.
I don't remember. Cherie will be with us shortly here in just a little bit also. So.
Yep. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Doc said he was going to try to join. He had some things to do this morning, and he's going to try to jump in. So anyway, all right. If everybody's ready, yeah. Question as always. If there's any questions, I mean it's really not this kind of podcast, but if there are questions, put a Q in the chat. We'll try to catch it and get it answered. So anyway. All right, ladies, whenever you're ready.
Just really quick, there was a comment on yesterday's video, I think from Crockett, that he didn't hear his question read out. And we saved a lot of questions yesterday. I responded to him and told him, and Doc answered him in the comment section, that part of that is my fault that we didn't answer. I think we just kind of
I forgot.
Busy talking at the end, and that's what I said. I think we just kind of forgot, quite honestly.
I did, because I know I started at least 3 questions, and I just completely forgot. I apologize for that.
So we'll try. We try.
Yeah, normally we don't, because there's another tab that pops up on StreamYard that you can see anything that we've started highlighted. So I just completely forgot. I apologize for that.
We're all senior citizens here.
Yeah, can you when you get down with the oxygen tank, can you run that over here?
Pass it over this way, right?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Whenever you're ready.
Morning, Mr. Lenk.
Morning.
I'm going to have a few questions for you about your own background, and then a few questions that will relate to your involvement with the Stephen Avery case and some related matters, okay?
Okay.
Let's start out with some obvious things. How old are you, please?
56.
And can you give me your employment, say, starting, 1980?
1980. I believe I was working at that time for Michigan Bell Corporate Security in Michigan.
Okay.
Prior to that, I had worked for the Detroit Police Department. And then I moved over here in 88 and I worked at Fleet Farm for a year. And then I got on the Sheriff's Department in December of 88.
In what capacity were you with the Sheriff's Department?
I started out as a jailer and then I worked up to the road, became a road officer.
Okay. And when did you become a road officer?
I think it was about a year later, so it must have been around December maybe of 89.
Okay. The record should also reflect that Mr. Avery is here now.
Thank you.
How long did you stay as road officer?
Oh, a couple years. Then I became part of the Metro Drug Unit.
And when was that roughly?
92 maybe.
Okay.
After that, I got promoted to sergeant, went back into the jail for a couple months, and then became a road sergeant after that.
I'm sorry, what pages are we on? I'm sorry.
PDF page 7.
Okay, sorry.
Page 6.
I hit my tab.
7 PDF, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Line 2.
Line 2.
PDF 7? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yep.
Let me come back over to the stream. I can see it better. Okay. Okay, where does that take us in calendar years?
I was a road sergeant from 92, I believe, until I became a sergeant up in the detective unit in, I believe it was 98. I became a lieutenant of the detective unit in May of 93 or 2003.
So, lieutenant of the detective unit in May of 03?
Yes.
Okay. And you stayed in that capacity until when?
Currently.
Okay. So that's where you are on the same title and same position?
Right.
All right. Have you, while you were with the Sheriff's Department, had any involvement with the Stephen Avery case that involves allegations of sexual assault of Penny Beertson?
Other than, I wasn't aware of it until I got the copy the other day. I did send out evidence in 2002 or something like that.
Okay.
And then the statement that you have in front of you.
Okay.
That's the only involvement.
So back in 1988, when you were around, you didn't have anything to do with any of the ongoing Avery materials, if there was anything going on at that time?
No, sir.
And similarly, in 95, 96, when there were post-conviction efforts, you were not involved in any of the investigative aspects of that?
No.
So you are aware, I take it, that in 2002, 2003, actually 2001, there were post-conviction efforts again submitted on behalf of Mr. Avery that related to DNA analysis of certain evidence. Is that correct?
I knew that because I had to send stuff to the crime lab.
Right. And in that capacity, as somebody associated with the detective unit, you at one point were involved at least to the extent of submitting evidence to the crime lab, true?
True.
Okay. Can you tell me who directed you to do that?
I believe it was a court order that came over stating that it should be sent to the crime lab.
And is that an order that would apply directly to you, or would it go to the sheriff and then the sheriff would give it to you, or how did that work?
I'm not exactly sure how that came through. Normally, it doesn't come to me directly. They just usually send it to the evidence tech.
Sure.
At that time, I was in charge of the evidence room, so
Actually, you anticipated my question. So it's because of your role in relation to the evidence room, we believe, that that would have come to you.
true.
And it was a simple matter, I take it, of removing items from the evidence room, bagging them in some fashion, and transferring them to the crime lab.
Yes, sir.
And was that the Madison or Milwaukee crime lab? Do you remember?
Other than, I don't remember. I would assume it would be Madison, but I wouldn't know unless I looked at the transmit.
Did you physically involve yourself in the transportation?
No, sir.
Okay. That got delegated to somebody else, I take it.
Yeah, it was either delegated or it was sent through the certified mail.
Okay. Now, let me come back to the document you've already referenced, and let me ask the reporter to mark this, please. Are you at 125 now, Mr. Kelly? Yes, we are.
Yes.
Thanks. Let me show you this document that now has the exhibit sticker on it as 125. I take it that's something you've seen before.
Yes.
Okay. Before I get into questions about the specific document, let me ask whether prior to September of 2003, you had any active awareness that this DNA challenge to Mr. Avery's conviction was going on. I mean, do you follow my question? I mean, I know that you had something to do with locating evidence
Mm-hmm.
and making arrangements to have it taken to a crime lab. But is that something that registered in your mind as an active investigation and wondering what was going on with it, keeping tabs on it, that kind of thing?
No, sir.
Okay. I mean, it sounds to me as though this was simply one of the many tasks that may have come your way in your position. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Didn't have any special significance to you.
No, sir.
Okay. Were the discussions that you engaged in with anybody about the Avery case at the time that this material was being gathered for shipment to the crime lab?
Not that I recall. I don't recall any specific conversations about sending the evidence in other than send it in.
Okay. No discussion about the history of the case?
Shaking
Or
head.
you know, that this is now a second or third challenge to his conviction? Anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay. Let me come back now to September of 03. You see the exhibit 125 has a date on it, 9/12/03, correct?
Yes.
By that time, Mr. Avery had gone through the court process that led to his exoneration, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I take it as someone with the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department at that stage, you would have been aware of that, true?
Yes.
It was fairly big news at the time, presumably.
Yes.
And again, let me ask whether before September 12th and the preparation of Exhibit 125, you had conversations with anyone about the Avery case. For example, conversations that may have involved discussions of Gregory Allen. Do you recall any such conversations?
No, sir.
Do you know the name Gregory Allen? Did you know the name Gregory Allen prior to September 12th, 2003?
No, sir.
I take it that you had not then had any involvement in any cases involving him, or if you did, you didn't recall it at the time.
I've never had To my knowledge, I've never had a case with Gregory Allen.
Okay. And how about Stephen Avery? Had you had any knowledge of Mr. Avery or any cases of his? Let's go back to the time that you were involved in sending evidence to the crime lab as of that date.
No, sir.
So I take it that in September of 2003, you were sort of getting your education, such as it was, in the Avery matter. True?
That's true.
And is it fair to say that that came exclusively from the media, as opposed to partly from the media, partly from fellow officers or others involved in law enforcement?
I would say the majority, if not all, came from the media about the case.
Wow, that sucks. Are you able to identify anybody in the sheriff's department with whom you had any conversation about the case?
The only one.
Other than what's reflected in the memo?
Okay. The only one that I had mentioned, or actually had it mentioned to me, was when I saw the picture that was drawn by then-time Chief Investigator Couchet.
Mm-hmm.
Then-time?
Yeah, I know, that's weird. Then time, he's flustered.
And he told me that it was involving a case, sexual assault case in Two Rivers.
And how did you happen to see that?
It was hanging on his wall in his office.
And can you describe what it was? Excuse me. And can you describe what it was? Was it only the composite, or was there also a photograph with it?
You know, to my knowledge, it's a composite. I don't know if there was a photograph there or not.
Okay, could have been. I mean, it's not that you have a recollection that there was not a photograph there. Is that true?
Right. It could have been or could not have been.
Okay. But what you recall now is the composite.
Sure.
And I'm sorry, maybe you said this and I just lost it. Can you tell me about when it was that that happened, even if it's just when in relationship to something else as opposed to when on a calendar?
I'm sure it was sometime when I first came up to the detective unit. 98 or so.
Okay.
I'm not positive.
Do you recall conversation with Mr. Couchet at that time about the composite, circumstances under which it was prepared, or the case?
No. He just said, doesn't that look like the information that was given about the suspect? And I said, yeah.
What information about the suspect?
Just the description that was given.
And how did you know what description?
Well, he told me the description, and he said, this is what they described, and this is the picture. And there may have been a picture next to it, so I could compare it.
Yeah, that's
probably.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Because it would be easier, obviously.
Oh, sure.
If it's comparing the photo to a composite.
Yes.
So that would have been roughly 5 years earlier than the memo that we've got in front of us as 125.
Roughly, yeah.
And did Mr. Couchet say anything else about the composite, about the preparation of the document, or that it was his first time or his best one, or anything at all that stands out in your mind?
No, he was just happy that it turned out well.
Sure.
Other than that, he really didn't elaborate.
And so now, that the exoneration of Mr. Avery has occurred, and the fact that Mr. Allen has been identified as the perpetrator of that offense, have you had any conversation with Mr. Couchet about the accuracy of the drawing in retrospect?
No, not really.
I mean, obviously, it's 2020 hindsight at that stage.
True.
But just wondering whether you've had any conversation at all with him about it.
Shaking
Your
head.
your shake.
No, other than look like the picture.
Right.
You know, looked like the drawing or whatever.
Okay. Could we go off the record for a second? I just want to close the door behind us.
Reporter off the record for, well, looks like I'm not even a minute back on the record.
Thank you. Okay, now let me ask you to take a look at 125, please. You've already indicated that you'd seen that before. And let me back this up a little bit. I see the date on here of September 12th, 03, and I see that the content of the document indicates that you were talking to Sergeant Andy Colburn and had certain conversation with Sergeant Colburn. And at the very bottom, it indicates that you later went to Sheriff Peterson. And obviously, I'll come back and go through all of this. I'm trying to find out, first of all, whether this narrative describes events that all took place on September 12th, or did any of this take place on September 12th, or is September 12th simply the date on which you wrote the report?
It's my recollection that everything took place on this date.
Okay.
September 12th.
And can you tell me why it is that Exhibit 125 would have been prepared?
At the time that Officer Colburn gave me the information, although it was vague because of the circumstances, it had come out already about this Avery case. I thought it may or may not be relevant. So I said, maybe you should pass that on to the sheriff. That's how we ended up going up to Sheriff Peterson.
Okay. And when you say, I thought that maybe you should pass it on, is that you talking to yourself?
No.
Or you talking to Colburn?
I had mentioned that to Sergeant Colburn, that he should probably go up and talk to the sheriff and at least tell him what you have.
Okay.
Whether it's relevant or not, that's not his decision.
Sure. Well, let's go through this then, please. We've got a conversation on September 12th between you and Sergeant Colburn, and it's apparently taking place in your office. Is that right?
Yes.
And the conversation had something to do with one of the detectives that I don't know even need to get into with you. I don't think, unless you're going to tell me that that conversation was in some way related to the Avery case.
No.
Sounds like it wasn't.
No.
Okay. So after this, or maybe it's part of this unrelated conversation, something was said about the Stephen Avery exoneration, I take it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me, flesh this out a little bit and tell me your recollection as to how that went?
You know, I don't have any recollection. In fact, I'd forgotten about this statement until it was brought to my attention.
Okay.
I didn't think anything of it too much at the time, and I just forgot about it.
So having read this, your recollection is not refreshed about that?
No, I don't know what else was talked about.
Okay. But you do know that whatever the conversation was about, one of the detectives, it was not a conversation related to the Avery matter.
Right.
And I take it when you prepared Exhibit 125, you did so in an effort to be accurate, correct?
Yes.
And as complete as you thought was appropriate to the circumstances.
Yes.
You had by that time been involved in law enforcement, either in Detroit or in private law enforcement, if you will, or in the sheriff's department.
For many years.
I think we lost Rhonda. We lost her.
You do?
Hmm.
What?
Yeah.
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, I
Okay.
hear you.
We that last part,
Can
if
you
you
not-
will, or in the sheriff's department for many years. The many years dropped off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll do it again.
Yes.
Did you? Okay, you went on to yes. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
And had written many reports by that time in your life,
Yes.
and knew the importance of accuracy and completeness in a report, correct?
Yes.
So you also recognize that a person had been incarcerated for some 18 years for an offense on which he had now been exonerated, correct?
Yes.
And knew that that was a very significant event in the criminal justice system, correct?
Yes.
So when the subject was brought up, it was a subject to which you paid close attention. I mean, this was a big deal in the media at the time, and you've already indicated that it was a significant matter in the criminal justice system, true?
Mr. Bascom, objection multiple, Mr. Mayor, and form also.
You can answer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was a big deal.
Sure. And because of that, I mean, this report came into existence, true?
True.
I mean, you have lots of conversations about lots of cases in your daily activities that don't lead to the generation of a report's statement like this, correct?
That is correct.
So now let's go through the report. And again, can you tell me what your own report writing style was? If you were trying to take down something verbatim or a quote, would it be your practice to put quote marks in, or did you not generally use quote marks in the reports that you wrote?
If it's an accurate quotable statement, I usually use quote marks.
Okay. So this you would consider not to be a quotable statement, but rather more in the nature of a summary of a statement. Is that fair?
Right.
And Sergeant Colburn is telling you that he was working in the jail division around 95. Is that
Yes.
safe? Is that safe to say? When it says, quote, probably 1995, end quote, is that Sergeant Colburn's term, quote, probably 1995, end quote, or is that your term?
That's my term.
Okay. Whoops. Sorry. Okay. And would that have been based exclusively on what he said? Or would you have attempted to relate what he said to something you knew about for 1995?
I didn't have any recollection of 95. It had to be something that he was relating.
Okay. So would it be a fair inference for a reader of this report to conclude that Sergeant Colburn indicated that it was probably 1995 that the events he was about to describe had occurred?
Yes.
Okay. And he said he received a telephone call as opposed to a personal visit, correct?
Correct.
And again, there isn't an issue about whether it's a telephone call as opposed to a fax transmission or a personal visit. I mean, it was a phone call because that's what your report says.
That's what he told me.
And he said that the person calling said he was a detective, and the best that Sergeant Colburn could recall is that he thought the caller might have been from Brown County. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And where this abbreviation of BRO County occurs, that's obviously supposed to be Brown County, true?
Yes.
And he said he isn't sure. I'm sorry, I'm quoting from from the report. At the end of that sentence, the four words are quote, but he isn't sure, close quote. I take it that means that Sergeant Colburn wasn't certain that the caller was a detective from Brown County as opposed to some other area. Is that right?
That's what he told me. Right.
Okay. That's his best recollection
Correct.
of something that happened roughly 8 years earlier.
Correct.
And whether that detective was from, the detective told him he has a person in custody. And I note that at first it said, quote unquote, have, and then it got changed to quote unquote, has, for being the present tense.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you were trying to convey?
Yes.
That Sergeant Colburn was saying, that the detective was saying to Sergeant Colburn that the detective at the time of the call to Colburn had this person in custody?
That's what he told me. Yes.
Okay. And that person, according to the detective, had said that a few years earlier, that person, the suspect who was in jail, had committed an assault in Manitowoc County. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
And am I interpreting that correctly?
Nodding.
Ms. Dole, you have to answer.
To the best of my, to the best of my knowledge, yes.
Okay. And you use the phrase, quote, an assault, close quote. And again, the report doesn't use it in quotes. I'm just trying to let
Mm-hmm.
you know that words I'm quoting here. Does, quote, an assault, end quote, as the term would have been used by you in September 2003 mean a sexual assault, or could it be any kind of assault?
It could be any kind of assault.
Okay. If it had been referring to a sexual assault, would you have put down sexual assault as opposed to an assault, or don't you know?
Yes.
You think you would have?
I would have wrote that down. Yes.
Okay. So you think that what Colburn was telling you at the time was just the phrase, quote unquote, an assault.
Yes.
Okay. That was what the detective told Colburn was an assault.
That's what he told me. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Detective, I'm reading the last sentence of the second paragraph. Quote, this detective also told Sergeant Colburn that he believes someone was arrested for this crime already. End quote. Did I read that accurately?
Yes.
And again, what that sentence is telling us is that the detective believed that someone had already been arrested for that crime that the person in custody was saying he had committed. Is that correct?
That's what it.
Ms. Dole, I'm going to object like a foundation.
Well, I mean, it's your report. That's what you understood?
That's what I understood from Sergeant Colburn.
Sure. And continuing on to the next paragraph, quote, Sergeant Colburn said that the detective wanted to speak to someone in the detective unit, but Sergeant Colburn can't remember who he advised or passed this information on to, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. And again, that pretty much speaks for itself, right? I mean, the detective thought was from Brown County, told the sergeant that he, the detective, wanted to speak to somebody in Manitowoc Detective Unit. True?
True.
Ms. Dole, I'm just going to object like foundation unless you're saying what Colburn told him.
Sure. I mean, that's all based on what Colburn told you, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah, and when we say, quote, in the detective unit, end quote, are you meaning that Sergeant Colburn was referring to the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department detective unit?
Yes.
Because that's what you guys were in, correct?
Yes.
And Colburn can't remember who he advised or passed this information on to. Did Colburn tell you that he did in fact advise someone or passed the information on to someone, but he just couldn't remember who it was?
That's the way I took it. Yes.
As opposed to saying, quote, I don't know if I told somebody, end quote, or quote, I don't know if I advised anybody, end quote.
No, I didn't take it that way.
You took it that he did, in fact, pass the information on to someone, but today, 8 years later, wasn't sure of who that person was.
Correct.
And again, that's based on what Sergeant Colburn said to you.
Exactly.
And this indicates that Colburn said he was later informed by someone that the case was already solved and the right person was arrested. Now the quote unquote he that's in that sentence that I just read in the second to the last paragraph here, that's Sergeant Colburn, correct?
Correct.
I mean, he's not saying that he's still quoting this person from Brown County. I mean, that's Sergeant Colburn saying that Sergeant Colburn was later informed by somebody that the case was already solved and the right person arrested.
Yes.
Okay. Excuse me. And again, Sergeant Colburn couldn't recall who it was that told him that the case had already been solved. True?
True. That's what he told me.
Did he make any guesses about that or say, quote, gee, it could have been this person, it could have been that person, I'm not sure, end quote?
He wasn't sure. He said it probably.
Oh, sorry.
The only thing he said is it probably wouldn't be Jean Couchet because I didn't know Jean at that time.
Okay.
So
he could sort of exclude Jean Couchet, but that was about as much as he could do in terms of identifying that source.
correct.
And you indicate that you later went to Sheriff Peterson to pass on the information, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'll come back and talk about that for a minute. But let me just talk about your state of mind on September 12th, 2003, after receiving this information. You recognized that Sergeant Colburn was saying what Sergeant Colburn was saying could be important information, correct?
Yes.
And again, I mean, that's why the report is prepared.
Correct.
And that's why the decision is made to go to Sheriff Peterson to pass on the information.
Correct.
And again, I have to state some obvious things, but certainly it wasn't your job to pass on every single bit of information that came to you on every single case that crossed your desk to Sheriff Peterson, correct?
Correct.
Part of your job as a supervising law enforcement person was to use your own discretion and your own judgment in determining what's important and what's not, and what needs to go to the sheriff and what doesn't, correct?
Yeah, most of the time.
Sure. And I mean, and sometimes you might be ordered by somebody to give me a call, give me all information that comes in or something.
Correct.
And you would do that then, true?
Correct.
But I take it nothing like that had been given to you as a directive with respect to the Avery case.
No.
In point of fact, do you have a recollection of there being a directive from Sheriff Peterson that the Avery case was not to be discussed outside the department with anybody, and that directive coming out around September 12th, 2003?
I don't know when it came out. I remember at some point there was a directive that it shouldn't be discussed.
Okay. And as specific dates, that's just not something that you have recall of?
I don't recall.
Okay. So the state of mind that you had on September 12th, this information should go to the sheriff, right?
Yes.
And can you tell me why that would be?
Although it had really no specifics into it, I thought maybe under the circumstances with the Avery case that it may or may not have some relevance, and I thought it should be brought to the sheriff's attention.
Okay. And how do you do that physically? I mean, do you call to make an appointment or do you go knock on a door? Or what was your access like in September of 2003 to Sheriff Peterson?
I think I just went up and knocked on his door.
And did you go with Sergeant Colburn?
I believe we went together.
Okay. And was Sheriff Peterson available?
I believe he was.
Did you talk to him right then?
To my recollection, I would assume it was right then, but I can't say absolutely it was right then.
Yeah, okay. Do you have a recollection of whether any part of the report that's Exhibit 125 had been prepared by that time?
No.
That is, by the time you went to see Sheriff Peterson.
No.
So this document, 125, didn't begin to get prepared until after you had talked to Sheriff Peterson. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
So do you recall at any time during the meeting with Sheriff Peterson there being anyone else present besides yourself, Sergeant Colburn, and Sheriff Peterson?
I don't recall.
Do you recall whether the meeting stayed in Sheriff Peterson's office as opposed to moving anywhere else?
I don't think I've ever had a conversation with the sheriff that didn't stay in his office. I mean, we never left the office and went somewhere else.
Okay. Do you recall whether Sheriff Peterson took any notes of what you were saying?
I don't recall.
Do you recall whether what you were saying was recorded in any fashion?
No.
No, it wasn't, or no, you don't recall?
I don't believe it was, but I don't recall specifically.
When you and Sergeant Colbert were there, did you report what Sergeant Colbert had said to you, or did you simply ask Sergeant Colbert to tell the sheriff what Sergeant Colbert had told you?
I don't know exactly how it went down. Usually, if I take someone to talk to a supervisor, I usually lead into it with a quick summary of what it was and then let someone else explain it.
Sure. And that's probably what would have happened based on your own experience and practice.
It's probably what happened.
Okay. It certainly would not be the case that Sergeant Colburn would not be allowed to speak to the sheriff.
No.
I mean, that's the point of his being there, correct?
Correct.
So that if the sheriff has questions, he can follow them up with Mr. Colburn.
Correct.
And do you have any recollection as to how long the meeting lasted?
You know, I don't, other than it was probably very short.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a recollection of anybody saying anything in particular?
Other than the sheriff said, give me a statement as to what you just told me.
Okay.
That's how this came about.
And well, when you say that's how this came about, it is that direction from the sheriff, together with your own feeling of the significance of the event that caused you to prepare the statement that's here as Exhibit 125.
Correct.
And after you prepare that statement, what's your practice in terms of what you do with it? Does it go to a case file? Does it go to the sheriff? Does it go any particular place?
This particular statement went to the sheriff.
All right. Did you see it after it went to the sheriff?
You know, I just want to say that Colburn claims that they did not go together to Peterson's office.
Right.
That's right.
Which is really weird.
And it's a good place to pause. I think we're on line 9. I think, and I was going to interrupt you earlier, but we really were just getting going. But he was talking about Lenk's involvement with the Avery case and handling evidence, and maybe I'm just misremembering, and you guys can help me out, or maybe someone in a live chat. But I seem to recall in '97 or maybe '98, Lenk had also was the one that signed the evidence transmittal form for in the Penny
Yes.
Bernstein case. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Now it looked
Yeah,
like
for
Glenn
the
and Kelly did. Yeah, go ahead.
well, hang on a minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, for the fingerprint, or I mean the fingernail scrapings.
Yeah, that was it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was I'm just thinking that form was in '97 or '8, and Lenk is the one that did the transmittal. I'm not saying he did anything nefarious or anything like that. I'm just
Right.
saying it appears that Glenn and Kelly somehow missed that because they only were going back to 2000, 2001.
I thought Link mentioned that toward the beginning of this, that was
Did he?
Yeah, he had something to do with transferring.
Yeah, but I thought it was later than '97 or '98. Maybe I just missed it. Okay.
Did he
Anything here?
also was he also in charge of transferring the hair in 01?
You know, I don't remember. I just don't recall which one was the evidence tech at that time.
Well, I know he did have that sign because that's, they kind of linked him to the blood vial that way. Because he had been the one to send off evidence, but I'm not sure which year that was.
Well, it was probably 02 because Culhane had it for a year.
Yeah, Kelly just said it was 01.
Or 01. Well, okay. So it sat there for a period of time, at least a year before she tested
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So, hey, I did want to welcome Cherie and JD. How y'all tonight? Jay or Cherie?
I'm good, thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Took my time to log in, but I got there eventually.
So it's all good.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Whenever, I mean, better late than never, as cliche as that is, right?
That's right. And we've had a few more join us. I see Nick M, Veronica Clack. Rumor has it, Ms. Pennington, Jazz Naz, Stuart King, Cher, Double D, Colette. Nan's Life. Yep.
And I'll just say the Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl.
Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. Woohoo! Oh.
Yeah, it looks like I'm going to be the lone Lions fan if they win.
No, you got
True Crime.
ATM, True Crime Fangirl.
That's right. And
I have a hard time switching that name.
So we'll be rivals.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. I kind of scrolled up there. I didn't really see any questions that have been asked. So anyway, continue on. It looks like he's really railed down here on getting specifics about the statement that he had Colburn right, and again beating this dead horse even more about 8 years later why it's important now to write a report. I question that. I just question it, and then Peterson locking it in the safe instead of putting it in the file.
Plus, it wasn't a normal report. It was
it was not.
A summary, or what they call it.
No.
Yeah.
You're right. It wasn't a normal report. This was like a different form. It was a different form, and it was not in the normal file. It was locked away.
That's right.
Locked away for safekeeping.
Just in case.
Yeah. It kind of makes you think, why would there be like a hidden file that's kept in the safe, in the sheriff's safe, that's separate from someone's regular file of some event that took place.
Right.
So what else is in that file that we don't know about?
I think they were kind of maybe waiting to see if maybe that Brown County officer happened to say something, and
or if Glenn and Kelly presented something from that Brown County detective or whatever. Yeah.
Well, but I mean, they weren't being sued at that time yet.
No.
When the report was written, so
they probably had an inkling.
What's that?
They probably had an inkling something was going to happen, which is why it went in the safe.
Or knew that it possibly could.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure. Yeah.
This is like a piranha file is going to come out and bite them on the ass.
Yep.
Plus, we know Colburn said that because Surik was the one that said, we got our guy.
Yeah.
And obviously, that guy must tell everybody when they came into his office, this is the picture that I done. So he must constantly tell everybody.
Yeah,
well, if
probably
you think
on his wall.
If you think about that thing was probably hanging there since what, 86 or so. He had it framed.
Right.
So we're talking about going up to when Lenk said 97 or 98 when he met Cachet. So it's been hanging there for 13 years or whatever, or 10 years, whatever the hell it's been.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He must be super proud of that.
Proud of his work.
He polished it every Monday morning, probably.
Yeah. Anybody that walked in his office, hey, look, see that right there?
And you know what? I believe that, Jack, because he was pretty damn proud of himself.
Yeah,
he was.
So I would not be surprised if he made a comment to everybody who walked in. To pat himself on the back. I mean,
and considering that's the only drawing that he ever did, or tracing, I should say, but as I always call it, that was used in a in a case, which I found that really
framing.
Right.
Where do you reckon it is today?
What's that?
Where do you think it is today? Is it destroyed, or in somebody else's office, or
that's true.
Probably destroyed.
Probably, or maybe one of his relatives has the drawing tracing.
No telling.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back to it. We're really far. You guys are doing really well. We are 34 pages in, so we don't have too much more for Colburn.
Oh,
so I think we're on line 9.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
All right. Did you see it after it went to the sheriff?
No, sir.
When's the next time you did see it?
When Amy came to talk to me last Friday.
Okay. And Amy, for our record, is Miss Doyle, the lawyer.
Correct.
Seated to your left. And I take it at that time you read the statement?
Yes.
Were you able to recall anything beyond what you've told us so far about obtaining of that statement?
No.
Besides Sheriff Peterson, do you recall having any discussion with anyone else during what is that
concerning?
Besides Sheriff Peterson, do you recall having any discussion with anyone else concerning what it is that Sergeant Colbert had said?
I don't believe so.
Do you recall having any conversation with Sergeant Colburn after September 12, 2003 about this subject?
Other than a couple days ago when he mentioned he got a phone call and he had to do a deposition.
Okay. And actually, I was going to be coming to asking you that. But I'm talking about in roughly September of 2003. For example, any follow-up in which you bump into Colburn and say, remember yet who it is that you got the call from, or?
No.
who it is that you talked to, or him coming to see, saying, you know, that conversation we had earlier, I think the guy that I talked to was so and so.
No.
So as of today, Mr. Lenk, I'm sorry, what's your title? Your lieutenant?
Lieutenant of Detectives.
That's funny. I love this guy. Okay, I don't mean to diminish your title by not using it all the time. Lieutenant, when you came in today, did you have any more information about the subject matter of Exhibit 125 than you can recall having back in 2003?
Shaking
That
head.
is, that is, had you picked up any new information of any kind since you prepared the report that you don't remember?
Other than actually getting the report and remembering I actually did it, I had totally forgotten about it.
Okay, so no well, setting the report aside and talking only about the incident described in the report, that is a contact from some other law enforcement agency about a person in custody for an assault and wondering if that person was involved in an assault that was prosecuted earlier or that was going on earlier in Manitowoc County. Was there any conversation about that general subject matter that you can recall having with anybody else?
No.
Did you ever talk to any other people from Brown County about it, or any other Brown County law enforcement agency, including, for example, the City of Green Bay Police Department
No.
or Ashwaubenon or anybody else?
No, sir.
So, okay. So again, I think I'm approaching beating a dead horse, but I just need to make sure that the horse is in fact dead. There is not any more information that you have right now, today, about the subject matter of the statement contained in 125 than you had at the time you prepared 125. Is that true?
That's all I have.
Okay. Now, let me shift to conversations with anybody in connection with this litigation that's going on now, okay?
Nodding.
You had some conversation with Sergeant Colburn in which presumably you told each other about this process that you're involved in here today.
Yes, sir.
Is that right? Do you recall whether you contacted him or he contacted you?
I believe he contacted me.
Is he still with the sheriff's department?
Yes.
Okay, so you're both active members
Right.
of the sheriff's department today. And when he approached you, however the contact occurred, whether it was he to you or you to him, was it limited to the question of the existence of a subpoena, or did you discuss this document? Did you discuss the fact that the events described in 125 had occurred? Did you have any other conversation?
No, not really. He had mentioned to me that he had gotten some kind of contact, that he had to make a deposition. And he asked me if I had any contact, and I said yes. I said, I have no idea what it's about. I wasn't even hired at the time. And he had mentioned something about a phone call. And it still didn't register to me until he came out and he said, no, it's about that information I gave you about a phone call that I got. I said, oh, okay. And that's how I remembered it. So.
And did he say anything about having an improved recollection or increased amounts of information?
No.
Today as opposed to what he had back then?
Not to my knowledge.
How about conversations with Sheriff Peterson? Was this matter taken up between you and him at any time after September 12th, 2003, to your recollection?
No.
So again, I mean, it's as though as of September 12th, 2003, sort of a door gets closed on the issue, at least in your mind, and that door isn't opened again until the subpoena comes around.
Correct.
And well, you're not aware of any other person besides Sheriff Peterson, Sergeant Colburn, and yourself that has ever had conversation about this or discussion about this. Is that right?
Not to my knowledge.
This meaning
This document.
this subject, yeah.
No.
Okay. In Exhibit 125, in the third paragraph, quote, Sergeant Colburn said the detective wanted to speak to someone in the detective unit, but Sergeant Colburn can't remember who he advised or passed the information to, end quote. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Again, that's Sergeant Colburn indicating that the person he recalled as a Brown County detective wanted to speak to someone in the Manitowoc Detective Unit, correct?
He said whoever he had talked to wanted to speak to someone in the detective unit.
Right. And again, I think we've already agreed that that's the Manitowoc County Detective Unit that he's referring to.
That's the person he wanted to speak to.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And in short, he wanted to speak to a Manitowoc County detective who might know something about this other case. I mean, that's what you understood
Correct.
Sergeant Colburn to be saying, that the other person had said to Sergeant Colburn.
Correct.
And the testimony that you gave earlier about the composite drawing, what's Mr. Couché's title at the present?
At that time, he was chief investigator.
Okay. That Chief Investigator Couché had in his office, as I understood your testimony toward the end of that discussion, you were thinking that there probably was a photograph there as a comparison point.
I think there probably was, now that I'm thinking about it, there probably was a picture there, so you could compare the two.
Let me try one other thing, then see if that refreshes your recollection at all. Obviously, Inspector Couché would have had to have gotten a description verbalized to him by the victim in the assault, true? In order to prepare the...
Well, that would be normal procedure.
That's the ordinary way of...
Ms. Dole, I'm just going to object like a foundation.
Sure. And that's the ordinary way that kind of composite would be prepared?
Usually from the victim or from a witness or...
Sure. But I mean, from somebody who says they saw the person.
Correct.
And could it have been that what Inspector Couché was saying to you was the description he had received from the victim and asking you to compare that to the composite as opposed to comparing the photograph to the composite?
No, I think actually it was comparing the photograph to the composite.
Okay.
To see how close they were.
Okay. And so what he had was then a photograph of, and I take it the photograph was of Mr. Avery?
I believe so.
Yeah. And again, this was obviously before Mr. Avery had been exonerated of the crime.
Mm-hmm.
This was, I think you said, in what, like 98 or not, something like that?
Somewhere in my first part of coming up in the detective unit.
Yeah, okay. And at that time, again, I think you've indicated that the Avery case was not something significant to you.
No, sir, not at all.
Okay, I think I'm finished. Anybody else have any?
Mr. Bascom, I don't have any questions for this witness. Ms. Dole, I have just one question. And by the way, the Lions are leading 14-0. Just wanted to pass that on.
Right.
They
Woohoo.
are.
Wow.
All right,
That's fast.
Ms. Doyle, I believe you stated that Exhibit 125 was prepared because of a request made by Sheriff Peterson that you prepare a report. Is that correct?
Correct.
Would you have prepared Exhibit 125 if the Sheriff didn't direct you to prepare a written report regarding your conversation with Coburn?
Probably not.
Ms. Doyle, that's all I have. And the reporter says, that's it, we're done. 11:57 a.m. off the record. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Good job.
nothing too explosive. Yeah, you guys marched right through that one. That's great. That's fantastic.
Mm.
Yep. Not too many questions. It really all just centers around this conversation between Lenk and Coburn, and then Peterson wanting this report. But for me, it just always falls back to this: why Coburn would even have recalled this phone call if it wasn't something that registered in his mind. I don't know. That's just me, I guess. And I'm not necessarily meaning that in a nefarious way. I'm just meaning as somebody that, in his words, he answered many calls. I'm sure he did at the jail. And this one
Right.
completely stuck out in his mind.
Well,
But
it is kind of an unusual occurrence.
it is. It is an unusual occurrence. I grant you that. Yeah. Well, I guess, we're all different. So, anyway.
Well, I imagine when he talked to Kasurik about it, and Kasurik told him, "Don't worry about it. We got our guy." That probably stuck with Colburn.
Probably.
Yeah.
But still, it was many years later. So, I don't know.
No, I mean at the time that it happened.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, and we don't know what this connection that was probably made. If he transferred the call, somebody in the detective unit answered the call, whoever that
Yeah.
was, Couchet or Nicholson or.
I think Colburn probably, and I'm speculating, probably talked to that detective, whoever he transferred it to afterward or something, and was told what Kasurik said, either that or Kasurik said it to him directly. I don't know.
Or possibly even he put that detective from Brown County on hold and called over to the detective unit and said, "Hey, I got somebody on the phone here that says he's got X, Y, and Z's detective, blah, blah, blah."
Yeah.
The salient details are missing, and that's what's bothersome to me.
Yeah.
Something to identify.
I don't think they would have blown that detective off just like that.
No, I don't either. And again, I think being identified as a detective from such and such department has to go through a process. Otherwise, again, anyone could just fucking call in and, pardon my language, but anybody could just call and say, "Hey, I'm Detective Joe. I need some information. Can you run and they could be a criminal or somebody that is going to go rob somebody's freaking house. You just can't do it. There's got to be some way to identify these people. So anyway, all right, I'll beat that dead horse pretty soundly.
Yeah.
So
he's definitely dead.
Yeah.
He's dead. Dead. Dead as a dead horse.
Which one's next?
This is Ramona Marcelle. Ramona Marcelle. You see
now,
the time
tell
there.
me about who she is.
Well, we'll get more into it, but she's this gets back into Dvorak and making that report. We're going to get into it here. I don't remember all the details of it, and I didn't.
Up in Krivitz.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. And don't forget, guys, anyone that's interested, these reports, these exhibits, and I can't specifically identify, or I would, which exhibits are each one of these that we were able to get through the Coburn v. Netflix case. And for those that don't know, these reports that Amy Doyle and Deb Strauss did for Peg's investigation starting in September of 2003. Glenn and Kelly had those reports, and we tried to get them numerous different ways. Sunshine Christina tried. She really tried. Well, then Coleman v. Netflix case comes out, and magically all these reports are in there. So they were one long, like 500 page. It was 500 pages of all these various DOJ reports. So I went through and I clipped them apart, made them their own PDF for each individual witness that they interviewed.
That's a lot of work, Jack. Wow.
It was a pain in the ass, but
Yeah.
I felt like it needed to be done for anyone that really wanted to know what was going on, because you read these reports, and we actually read some of them. We didn't go through them all. I need to pick that back up. That's another project that didn't get done. We read through several of them, and they're actually pretty revealing. Anyway, so those reports
this one really is for sure.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
and I'm 99.9% sure, and I should have looked. I actually started to look back a few days ago because I figured this is what I'd be doing tonight. There is a police report that got generated out of some of what we're going to read here.
Yeah, I've read that before.
Yeah. Remember, we covered that on the Christina's podcast, Crime Theory Exchange.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy what what happens in this. It's just crazy. So anyway, let's get back to it so we can.
She was
not
out
be here
for
all
Steve. There's no doubt.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it looks like they took a little lunch break and they got back underway at 1:32. It says this PDF file is 57 pages, so I'm guessing around 50 pages. So it'll be, hopefully we won't break more than a couple times and we can get done in an hour or so. Try not to keep everybody here all night. So we have some help now. If Cherie, can you read?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Thanks so much. And Jay, can you read?
Yeah, I should be good for that.
Okay. So, of course, we got Glenn and Kelly, and then we got Amy Kaiser and Amy Doyle. So, Cherie, if you do, I said Amy, Amanda. Cherie, if you can do Amanda and Amy.
Oh, Amanda, Amy Doyle, and Amanda who?
Amanda Kaiser.
Okay.
Yeah, the two women. And then, Jay, if you could do Bascom and John Mayer.
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah, that probably won't be a lot, but and I'll do the reporter. And it says also present Stephen Avery and Wayne Marcelle. Wayne must be her husband or some relation of some type.
Yeah. Some relation.
Mm-hmm. And then it looks like we do have some. We'll get a little bit of cross-exam at the end. We got Exhibit 126, a hand sketch drawn by Ms. Marcelle of the neighborhood. Statement of Ramona in July 30th of 85. Their police report, a letter and subpoena, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so we'll just keep unless you, Susan and Rhonda, unless you guys want to switch up, we'll just keep the same format.
I'm fine, Rhonda.
Yeah, I'm
okay.
I'm fine
Rhonda,
to do what
Rhonda, you can do Glenn and Kelly, and Susan, you can be Ms. Marcelle this time.
Go.
All righty, Rhonda. Ladies, whenever you're ready, let's get to it.
All right. Mrs. Marcelle, have you ever given sworn testimony before?
No.
Are you familiar with the procedures in a deposition?
No.
I'm going to be asking you some questions today, and I would ask that you wait until I finish my question before you give me the answer. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Okay. And when you answer, do your best to give a full and complete answer to the question that I asked you. Can you do that?
Yes.
Okay. If you have any problem understanding a question that I've asked you, just ask me to explain it if you would. Is that agreeable to you?
Yes.
Okay. Do you understand the seriousness of the case that brings you here today?
Yes.
All right. Would you tell me your current address, please?
247 South Rockaway Street in Mishcot, Wisconsin.
And at the time that you remember the case where Penny Bergson was assaulted in 1985, and then Stephen Avery was tried for that assault. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Where did you live at that time?
6414 Old Y, Maribel, Wisconsin.
Okay. And you were a neighbor of Stephen Avery's at the time at that address, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Would you tell me your date of birth and your age, please?
4/27/1945, 60.
And are you married, ma'am?
Yes.
And what's your husband's name?
Wayne Marcelle,
And how old is Wayne?
62.
And what does Wayne do?
He's retired.
Before he was retired, what did he do?
Worked at Eck Foundry.
Would you tell us about that? What did he do?
He worked at Eck Foundry. He was a
How do you spell Eck?
ECK.
Okay. What did he do there?
He was a molder.
And are you retired, ma'am?
No.
What do you do?
I work at the Regency Suites, driving the courtesy van
And how long have you been doing that?
since May of 2005.
At the time that Stephen Avery was on trial for allegedly having assaulted Mrs. Beertson, were you employed?
Yes.
What were you doing at that time?
Working at the Miro Corporation.
And what did you do at Miro?
At that time, I was in the press room.
All right. And do you and Wayne have children?
Yes.
Would you tell me who they are and what their ages are, please?
Jane Cornelli, 41. Gerald Marcelle, 40. Jill Marcelle, 28. And Julie Marcelle, 28.
Are Jill and Julie twins?
Yes.
All right. Are your in-laws still living?
No.
At the time that they were living, your father-in-law's name was what?
Amand Marcelle. Amand,
How do you
Amand.
Amand? How do you spell that first name?
Amand.
And his wife's name was what?
Joyce. Joyce.
What was your maiden name, ma'am?
Genrich.
How do you spell that?
Genrich.
In 1985, when you were living at 6414 Old Y in Maribel, did you have as neighbors David Dvorak and Judy Dvorak?
Yes.
And did you know them?
Yes.
Did you consider them to be friends?
Not close friends.
But friends.
Talked to them. Didn't really go out with them or do anything with them.
Were you unfriendly with them?
No.
But you were friendly with them.
Right.
All right. And did you have as neighbors at that time on Old Y in Maribel, Bill Morris and Sandra Morris?
They were neighbors, but they weren't on Old Y at that time.
Where were they?
Melnick Road. I think that's Melnick Road.
Did Melnick intersect with Old Y in the area?
Yes.
All right. And you also had as neighbors at that time, Stephen Avery and Lori Avery.
Yes.
Were you friendly with the Morrises?
Yes.
And at the time that you all were neighbors and friends, that is to say the Dvoraks, the Morrises, and you knew that David Dvorak worked in the sheriff's department. Is that?
Yes.
And that Judy Dvorak worked part-time as a deputy in the sheriff's department.
Yes.
And that Bill Morris worked in the sheriff's department.
Yes.
Okay. And did you at that time know a person who was named Scott Williquette? Williquette?
No.
Okay. Have you since come to know Scott Williquette?
No.
Do you know whether or not your husband Wayne knew Scott Williquette?
No.
Okay. Ma'am, I'm going to give you a piece of paper which we're going to mark as Exhibit 126. And I'm going to ask you to draw Old Y and show the location of your home, the Dvorak's home and the Avery's home, relative to each other as best you can. Guys, sorry, I have to pause for a second. My door's been opened and I need to close it.
That's fine.
Okay.
Whilst you're doing that, I can continue.
Okay. How would you like me to label this? Just our last names?
You can just write in by last name.
Because he opened it.
My last name?
Sure. And can you approximate where Sandra and Bill Morse's home would be relative to OY at that time?
Complies.
All right.
I'm
There's a
back.
cross street. Okay.
Sorry.
Line 7. You're fine. Line 17.
All right, there's a cross street which you've labeled. Would you tell us for the record what the name of that road is that the Morrises lived on?
Melnick Road.
All right. And then it appears that there's a road that goes off of Old Y on which the Dvoraks lived. What's the name of that road at that time? Do you remember?
That's not a road. They had a long driveway.
They had a...
So they were back off.
Okay. If you just write that in...
Driveway?
Driveway. Were you and the
Right.
Averys next door neighbors?
Yes.
And do you recall whether there was another next door neighbor to the Averys below where you've listed the Averys?
Yes.
And would you put an X in for those people?
Complies.
And do you know their names?
Harvey and Geraldine Zeman.
Okay. Would you put Siemens in there to indicate that they lived there?
Complies.
All right. May I see the diagram for a moment, please? Can you approximate for me about how far apart your home was from the Avery's home?
The lot lines were right. We were right next door.
Okay.
The lot lines were...
All right. Same thing with the Siemens relative to the Averys?
Yes.
In the map that you've drawn, is north represented by the top of the map?
I don't know if that's...
In other words, is Old Y a north and south road?
That's east and west.
Okay. Yeah, oh, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I always get confused with east and west.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Were you friendly with the Averys?
Not exactly.
There have been differences between you. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know whether or not the Siemens were friendly with the Averys?
No, I don't know that.
Okay. Were you friendly with the Siemens?
Yes.
Were you friendly with the Dvoraks?
Yes.
Were you friendly with the Morrises?
Yes.
Do you know whether or not the Morrises were friendly with the Averys?
I don't know that.
Actually, you know that they were not, right?
Right.
Stop lying. Okay. Also,
she's just being nice. Go ahead.
maybe. And you also know that the Dvoraks were not friendly with the Averys.
Yes.
Okay. In fact, Judy Dvorak was quite strong-minded about the fact that she did not think well of Stephen Avery, right?
Yes.
Okay. Before Mrs. Berntsen was attacked and sexually assaulted in late July of 1985, you knew that Stephen Avery had been arrested for running Sandy Morris off the road in January of 1985.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me how you knew that.
Mostly by the news.
Had you just,
On TV and on the radio.
but you knew it by some other means as well, is that right?
Well, we lived right next door, so we knew something was going on, but I didn't know what for,
Had you discussed with Sandy Morris what happened when Stephen ran her off the road?
No.
Had you discussed with Judy Dvorak what had happened to Mrs. Morris when Stephen ran her off the road?
Not that I can recall. I don't remember that.
Sandra Morris's husband, Bill, was a deputy in the sheriff's department, right?
Yes.
Did you have any discussions with Bill about the way that Stephen Avery had treated his wife?
No.
Do you know whether or not the Morrises are still married?
No.
Bill and Sandra.
No.
You don't know whether they are or not?
They're not. I don't think.
Okay. You think they divorced at some point?
I think they did.
Do you have any knowledge about whether Mrs. Morris remarried?
No.
At the time that Stephen Avery ran Mrs. Morris off the road in January of 1985, did you have any knowledge of your own from any source whatsoever about the relationship between Sandra Morris and Stephen Avery that had led to that incident?
No.
So you didn't know anything about it,
Nope.
other than what you read in the papers.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Are you and your husband related in any way to the Morrises?
Yes.
How are you related to the Morrises?
Sandy is my husband's cousin.
So as I understand it, Sandy's maiden name was Mott.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And Sandra Mott, what was the nature of her relationship with your, first of all, who is your husband's cousin?
Sandra.
Sandra is. Explain the relationship to me if you can.
Sandra's dad and my husband's mother were brother and sister.
Okay. Did you have any knowledge in that period of time between July and November of 1984 that Mrs. Morris was complaining about behavior on the part of Stephen Avery towards her?
No, I don't think so. No.
Did you have any knowledge about the fact that the sheriff's department was involved in assisting Mrs. Morris with respect to behavior that Stephen Avery was said to be engaging in?
No.
Okay. Before Stephen was arrested in January of 1985 for running Mrs. Morris off the road, had you or members of your family, to your knowledge, had any run-ins with Stephen Avery?
No.
Well, isn't it true? Excuse me. Isn't it true that Stephen Avery had been arrested for burglary for having broken into a trailer of your husband's in Marionette County?
Oh, yes.
And that took place in approximately 1981, 1982?
I can't remember what year it was.
Would it be fair of me to say, well, strike that. It's true, isn't it, that your husband was upset about that?
Yes.
And you and your husband and your family wanted Stephen Avery convicted for that break-in.
Mr. Murray, Foreman Foundation.
You can answer, ma'am.
No.
You did not want him convicted?
No.
How come?
I don't know, because his father took care of the damages.
Do you know what happened to Stephen Avery's case in respect to that breaking and entering?
No.
Do you know whether or not he was convicted?
No.
Did you go to court when he was sentenced?
No.
Were you ever present when your husband, Wayne, made threatening statements about Stephen Avery because Stephen had broken into his trailer in Marionette County?
No.
Did your husband ever say anything to you about how he felt about Stephen breaking into the trailer in Marionette County?
Yes.
What did he tell you?
I don't remember what he told me, but I just know he was pretty upset about it.
Were you upset about it?
Not as much as my husband was.
Okay. Would you tell us what your husband said about why he was upset with what Stephen had done?
He gets upset when anybody does anything like that.
What, in fact, did Stephen do?
Broke into the trailer, wrecked the door, and I don't know what else he did.
Did he take anything?
I don't remember.
Did he destroy anything of yours?
Of mine? No.
After that happened, of course, you were still next door neighbors when that happened, right?
Yes.
So there you are, living next to him in Maribel at the same time that he had broken into your trailer in Marionette County. Is that right?
I don't think he lived there at that time. Did he, honey?
Good. That's good. Do you think Stephen was...
I don't think he lived there at that time.
So your testimony is that when the break-in happened in Marionette County, Stephen and Lori did not live next door to you in Maribel.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
So they moved in later on.
Yes.
At any time after they moved in, well, strike that. Did you object to them moving in?
No.
At any time after they moved in, up until when Stephen was arrested in January of 1985 for running Mrs. Morris off the road, did you have any words, you yourself have any words with him about what had happened in breaking into your trailer?
No.
To your knowledge, did your husband have any words with him about that?
No.
Do you know whether or not your husband spoke with Mr. Zeman about how he felt about Stephen Avery?
No.
You don't know?
I don't know that.
Okay. Did you ever speak with Mr. Zeman about how you felt about Stephen Avery?
No.
Could you see the Avery premises from your house?
Yes.
How did you first hear about the fact that Mrs. Berenson had been assaulted on the 29th of July, 1985?
Well, I didn't know what happened, but I think that's when Judy Dvorak came and told me that night.
Okay. Did she come to see you personally at your home?
Yes.
Was it before or after Stephen was arrested?
I think it was after.
There were quite a few police at Stephen's house that night, right?
I didn't notice if there were.
Did you see Stephen get arrested?
No.
Did you see any activity in Stephen's yard around the time that he was arrested?
No.
So when Miss Dvorak came to talk with you, did you know of your own knowledge that Stephen had been arrested?
Nope.
So you hadn't seen anything up to that point in time?
No.
Okay. So the first information that you received about what had happened to Mrs. Bertson was information that you received from Judy Dvorak.
She didn't use any names or state. She just said that. Actually, I don't remember what exactly she said, but I don't think she said she wouldn't say what happened. What the hell?
Sorry,
that makes no sense. That makes no sense at all.
That was I don't want to give the truthful answer, so I got to think of something on the fly.
What
Let
the hell
me try
did
the
she tell you
question.
then?
Yeah, exactly. Let me try the question again. You knew nothing about what had happened to Mrs. Bertson until you were told that what happened by Judy Dvorak. Is that correct?
I can't really say I knew that either. She just came and told me that they arrested, I think she said they arrested Stephen, but she didn't say what for.
Did she tell you what happened to Mrs. Bertson?
No.
Do you remember about what time she came to visit you that night?
Well, I know it was later in the evening because the kids were in bed and it was dark. Probably 10:30, maybe.
And you gave her a statement that night, correct?
Not that I can remember.
You don't remember filling out a written statement?
No.
Do you remember signing a written statement at any point in time?
No.
Have you ever seen a written statement that you gave her?
No.
About how long did Miss Dvorak stay at your home when she came to see you that evening?
5 or 10 minutes, maybe. She didn't even come in.
Did she tell you why she was coming to visit?
No, she just stopped to tell me that they arrested Stephen Avery. She didn't.
Did she say who was the they that arrested Stephen Avery?
No, she didn't.
Did she ask you any questions?
I don't remember. That's a long time ago. I don't remember exactly what we said. I do remember she came to the door. That's about the extent of it.
Do you remember generally what she said?
I know she just said something about Stephen Avery. And I think I said, well, is he in trouble? And she said, yes. That was it.
That's the entire...
She said she thought she'd just let me know. I think maybe I had the 2 girls at home. I don't know.
I think maybe because I had the 2 girls at home. What does that have to do with anything?
Yeah.
Sorry. I mean, oh, because, okay, never mind. All right. Okay. Whatever you say, Marcelle. That's the entire conversation?
Yeah.
As you recall it?
Yes.
Do you remember telling Mrs. Dvorak about any suspicions you had concerning Stephen Avery being involved in the assault on a young child up north that had been reported to you by your mother-in-law?
I don't recall anything like that.
Do you remember saying anything to saying anything to Mrs. Dvorak about the fact that you had seen Stephen Avery chaining his young children to a vehicle in his yard that night? Did you say that to Mrs. Dvorak that night?
No, I don't recall anything like that.
Did you have any feelings of revenge towards Stephen Avery that night where you wanted to get even with him for what he had done when he broke into your home?
No.
Could you mark this as 127, please?
Exhibit 127 identified.
Sorry. Mrs. Marcelle, I'm going to give you an exhibit in this case, which is designated Exhibit 127. It's captioned Statement at the top. And there is writing at the bottom that purports to be your signature. I'm going to ask you to take a moment and read that. take whatever time you need to read that statement, and then I'll ask you some questions about it.
I don't remember telling her half of that stuff.
Okay, well,
I don't remember anything about that incident with my mother-in-law either.
in front to ask you some questions about it, all right?
Okay.
In the upper left-hand corner, it says it's your statement. Do you see that?
Yes.
It says the statement of Mrs. Wayne Marcelle.
Yes.
Did you, in fact, give this statement?
I don't remember giving it.
In the lower right-hand corner, there's a line that says signature.
Yes.
Is that your signature?
Well, looks like it could be.
In the upper right-hand side of the page, there's a handwritten note that says, statement as related to Deputy J. Dvorak. Do you see that?
Yes.
Is that your handwriting?
No.
Do you know whether or not that's Mrs. Dvorak's handwriting?
No.
You don't know one way or the other.
No.
If you look at the handwriting in the body of this document, Exhibit 127, the report itself, the statement.
Yes.
Hold it
Is
right
that
here.
your handwriting?
Hold it right here. Line 3.
Okay.
I just want to pop this on screen. I did find it. This is the statement that he's talking about
Oh,
right here.
okay.
Yeah. This is the statement
Okay.
that was allegedly prepared by Ramona Marcelle, and she said, no.
And that's 7:30:85. It says.
Yep.
7 a.m.
She conjured all. Yeah, she conjured all this shit. Yeah.
The information was relayed to me freely on 7:30. Oh, at 12:15. It's after midnight.
Well, I guess. Yeah.
Well,
Oh.
no,
No, that would be 12 in the afternoon.
Well,
Oh.
12:15.
Well, she
She's
said
got
she
down here.
came there in the evening at 10:30.
Yeah, she did. So that's not military writing, though. That's not military time.
No. Mm-mm.
Down at the
So-
bottom, it says 0700.
I know. It's completely. It's
Wow.
just. It's
Hell.
so screwed. It's so screwed up. I remember
What's
when
it
we
say at
went
the
through
top,
this.
Jack?
At the very top.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Sorry. There we go.
Okay.
It says
7:30,
12:14 a.m. Oh my God! What the hell, man?
What?
I forgot about this. Yeah. She conjured all this shit.
Okay,
Dvorak.
so she did mean 12:14 a.m. because it's been
Yep.
corrected down there 0014.
So was she on the crew that went and arrested Stephen? I wonder.
You
Because
know,
they went to his house late. They were
Yeah.
in bed. And
Yeah, that's right. Marcelle said she came
Oh,
over
wait.
like at 10 or 10:30. This is
oh wait,
after
this
midnight.
is after the Penny Burnson
Yeah.
arrest. I'm confusing it with the Sandra Morris.
So Dvorak made up the entire statement by this Marcelle lady.
It's something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Go down to the signature, if you don't mind.
The handwriting doesn't look all that different, does it?
It looks
No, it
the
looks
same
like-
as this.
Yep, it looks like
Look at those two M's, yeah. Marinette and then
mother-in-law. Yeah. Wow.
Very nice handwriting for such an ugly
It is.
person.
She does have nice handwriting for being such an ugly woman. Wow, that's insane.
Wow.
Why I just don't understand, because this isn't like the most unusual thing I've seen that, like this has happened before in other cases for whatever reason. And it never surprises, it always surprises me how somebody like Judy Dvorak or anybody else for that matter thinks that they're going to be able to write this statement like in a true statement form, sign it, and pass it off as the person who she says it made it, without ever considering the fact that that person might at some point have to see it, end up seeing it or having to testify about it. I don't understand.
This says statement as related to Deputy Judy Dvorak, which means it's her writing it, right?
That's what it.
Yes, but she's saying that she's but
it's
yeah,
not
but she's
her
saying
handwriting.
that it's right, and it's not Ramona Marcelle. She says the signature might be, of course we can't. It's blocked out. We can't see the rest of it, but.
Why would they black that out?
Yeah, what's redacted?
Well,
looks like
I don't really
redacted.
know. Well, yep, they didn't redact Dvorak's name. They left it. Her signature. Yeah. I mean, it's like it's made so like you can't forge somebody's signature, but they left Dvorak's name in there as a signature. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to point this out.
So this is the night or the early morning after Penny was assaulted.
Arrested, yes.
Yeah.
And there's another one too, another report about this child abduction. I'll see if I can find it while we're reading it. I don't know if I can or not, but I'll try.
Was Stephen arrested that night, the same night of the 29th?
It was right after me. It was the 30th. Yeah, but it was that. Yeah, it was the night of the day it happened. That's correct. Right after midnight.
Yeah, because Judy's telling this woman that he's been arrested.
That's right.
God, they went and got him after that same night.
That's right. So anyway.
That actually says that first line says. Upon my arrival home or something to that effect. So that is definitely being made to appear that Ramona wrote that statement, and that's just crazy to me.
Yep.
They may. Oh, yeah, I did know that. Barb.
Or is that Dvorak when she got? I don't know. Let's read this.
Yeah. Barb says they made Arlen Avery go there with them to arrest him. Yeah, I remember.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yep, that's right.
Hey, Barb.
Hey, Barb. Hope you guys doing all right. Yeah, there's...
what line are we on?
Right at the top, line 3.
Okay.
Is that your handwriting?
No.
Do you know whose handwriting it is?
No.
In the upper right-hand corner, there's a date and time listed. Do you see that?
Yes.
The date is July 30th of 1985, correct?
Yes.
And the time is 12:14 a.m. Do you see that?
Yes.
Underneath it says 0014.
Yes.
Which suggests that it's 12:15 in the morning after midnight had passed from the 29th on to the 30th of July. You see that?
Yes.
Does that change your recollection at all about how late it was when Mrs. Dvorak came to visit with you?
No, I don't remember what time it was.
Okay, so it could have been.
I know it was late. I mean, it wasn't early in the evening or whatever, but what time exactly? I don't remember.
So it could have been midnight.
It could have been.
And given the contents of what's included in this statement about the discussions that the two of you had, would it be fair to say that she was there for a lot more than 10 or 15 minutes?
I don't really think she was, because I can't recall having her in the house.
All right.
I remember standing and talking to her in the front door.
Okay.
So Dvorak either wrote that statement before she got there or she went home and wrote it.
Yep.
If what she's saying is true.
That's right.
Okay. Okay, it says here in this statement in the first paragraph that Mrs. Dvorak stopped to inquire about any activities in the Avery yard. Do you see that?
Yes.
And it says that you answered the door from watching TV.
Yes.
All right. Were you watching TV that night?
I probably was. If I was still up, I was watching TV, yes.
Well, you had to be up to
Yeah.
answer the door, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And then there's a conversation that's related for a few lines about what activities, if any, you saw in the yard. Is that right?
Yes.
What does the statement say that you told Mrs. Dvorak about activities in the yard?
What do you mean by that? Like I said there was only one car in the yard?
It appears that what you told her, according to this statement, is you saw only one car in the yard.
Yes.
That your husband Wayne had said it was quiet and that you hadn't seen anything coming or going. Is that right?
Right.
Is that what you told Mrs. Dvorak?
I don't remember if I told her that or not.
Okay.
I just don't recall what I told her that night.
Well, now this statement goes on and says you told her that you didn't know whether or not it was relevant, but during the Memorial Day week, there was an 11-year-old girl abducted in Marionette County. You see that?
Yes.
And then you go on for the rest of this front page to explain the connection that your mother-in-law told you that she saw between that 11-year-old girl being abducted and Stephen Avery.
I see that in there, but I don't even recall talking to my mother-in-law about anything like that.
Shit.
Well, this is crazy.
Yep.
Well, that was going to be my first question to you. Did your mother-in-law, prior to midnight on the 30th of July, 1985, tell you information about concerns she had that Stephen Avery might have abducted an 11-year-old girl in Marionette County?
No, not that I recall.
Then how would you have the information
I don't.
that this statement says was given by you to Mrs. Dvorak on the evening of either July 29th or July 30th?
I don't know. But to tell you the truth, I do not remember anything about this conversation with my mother-in-law.
Are you denying that you told this information to Mrs. Dvorak that night?
Yes.
Do you think Mrs. Dvorak made this information up?
I don't know.
Do you know why she would have had to have any reason to do that?
No.
She didn't like Stephen Avery, did she?
No.
She might have made it up for that reason, right?
Objection to the form.
Mr. Murray, yeah, and it's argumentative and speculative. Form of the question.
You can answer, ma'am. She might have made it up for that reason.
She might have.
Okay.
I have no idea.
But in any event, you didn't give her this information.
No.
Would you turn to the next page, please? If you'd look at that first paragraph on that page, it says, Mrs. Ramona Marcelle also stated that during New Year's week, their dog, and I think that refers to your dog, a gray miniature poodle, came home half castrated, and that they, meaning I believe you and your husband, suspected Avery of this incident but never confronted him. Do you see that information?
Yes.
First of all, did you tell that to Mrs. Dvorak that evening?
I don't know if I told it to her that evening or not.
All right. Did that in fact happen? That is to say, during New Year's week, Did your dog, a gray miniature poodle, come home half castrated?
Yes.
And were you and your husband suspicious that Steve and Avery had done this?
Yes.
What was the basis for your suspicions as you discussed it with each other?
I don't know. We just figured he was the only one in the neighborhood that would do something like that.
Why did you think that?
I don't know.
You didn't like him, did you?
Well, not at that time.
He had broken into your house up in Marionette County. You suspected him of castrating your dog, right?
Formally question.
Is that correct, ma'am?
Yes.
And you knew that people in the neighborhood didn't like him either.
Yes.
Now, the next paragraph says, before we go to the next paragraph, are you denying that you told Mrs. Dvorak this information in this first paragraph on page 2 on the evening of July 29th and 30th?
I'm not denying it, but I don't remember telling her.
Where else would she have gotten it if you know?
I might have told her that some other time, or from the neighbors or something, maybe.
But this,
In fact, the neighbors were taking care of the dog. The Zemans were taking care of the dog for us that weekend.
but this statement says you told Judy Dvorak that on the evening of July 29th or 30th, not some other time.
I don't recall telling her. Like I said, I don't recall what I told her that night. I may have told her that night.
You think she might have put in a statement that you had made to her on another occasion and attributed it to you that night?
It's
Objection to the form.
possible.
All right. The next paragraph said, Mrs. Ramona Marcelle also stated she and her husband have also seen his boy, 3 or 4 years old, chained to the pickup truck during the first part of June. Did you tell that to Mrs. Dvorak that night?
I don't recall an incident like that at all.
You don't recall the incident happening, or you don't recall telling her that?
Right. Yes. I don't recall the incident, or I don't recall telling her that.
Do you think she made it up?
Object to the form of the question.
Mr. Murray. Yeah, foundation also. If you have any idea, go ahead.
I have no idea.
You don't know whether or not she made it up?
No.
Where do you think she got this information that she put in this statement?
Object to the form.
I don't know.
Formally question.
Now, if you go down on the page a little bit, ma'am, there's an entry. There's a 2-line entry about
Yes.
5/8 of the way down the page. Do you see it?
Yes.
Would you read that into the record, please?
Quote, this information was related to me freely by Mrs. Wayne Marcelle on 7/30/85, 12:15 hours, end quote.
Is that statement true?
Object to the form of the question.
Join foundation also.
Not that I can recall. No.
All right. Now, if you'd go to the lower right-hand corner of the second page,
Yes.
there's a time listed. Do you see that?
Yes.
What's it say?
0700.
Did Mrs. Dvorak bring you this written statement back to you around 7 o'clock in the morning on the 30th of July to review it with you?
No. I don't recall her being there the next morning. Wow.
Yeah. You have no recollection of her coming back at all?
No.
During the day on July 30th, did she come back and review this statement with you?
No, not that I can recall.
Have you ever seen this statement before today?
No.
Would you mark this as 128, please?
Did we skip exhibit, Walt? Did you mark 1? Oh, I'm sorry, 126 is that.
126 is the diagram.
I'm sorry.
All right. Don't forget who's the boss here. Now, I'm going to show you what's been marked as exhibit 128 and ask you, if you would, to take your time and read that. And then I'm going to ask you some questions about it. Have you finished reading exhibit 128?
Yes.
At any time were you made aware by Mrs. Dvorak that an investigation of Stephen Avery with respect to the abduction of an 11-year-old girl was initiated in view of what you had told Mrs. Dvorak?
No.
At any time, did anybody from any police department come to talk with you about the information which Mrs. Dvorak says that you gave to her?
No.
In exhibit 128, it indicates that Stephen Avery's father had a cottage in the same area that you and your husband had a cottage in Marionette County. Do you see that?
Yes.
Did you know that to be true?
Yes.
In 1980, in the summer of 1985, how long had you known Alan Avery, Steve's dad?
Probably since I met him. That was 25 years, probably.
Did you consider that your relationship with Alan Avery was a friendly relationship, or had you had your differences?
My relationship with him,
Yes.
it was friendly.
How about your husband's relationship with him?
That was friendly.
So the difficulty involving the Avery family from your side of it had to do with Stephen, not with his dad.
Womanly question.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any difficulties with any of the other members of the Avery family?
No.
Do you know whether or not your husband, Wayne, and Stephen's dad had conversations during the period of time between 1984 and July 30th, 1985 about Stephen's behavior?
No.
You don't know.
No.
At any point in time, did you come to understand what accusations Sandra Morris was making about what Stephen Avery had done to her?
Yes.
How did you come to have that knowledge?
Well, that was the whole talk of Larrabee at the time.
Had Mrs. Morris told you what she felt about Stephen Avery was doing to her?
I don't think I ever heard it directly from Mrs. Morris, no.
From whom did you hear it?
Just talk.
So that kind of justifies or validates what Stephen said about everybody in the town, about Sandra Morris going around everybody in town and saying all these rumors.
Yeah, I'm going to pop something on the screen, and I have to give a big shout out to Supermod Catnet. She found this for me. I was trying to find it, but this is the report that is being referred to, and I believe it's Conrad that generated this, and you can see this is Marion County. Yeah.
I will be right back.
Okay. And you can see have possible suspect in abduction in assault case Marinette County, and you can see when it's written. Ms. Wayne Marcelle, County Y. So this report was generated.
So that was generated from Ms. Dvorak's false statement here. Was there actually an abduction on Memorial Day weekend in that year, or don't we know?
I think there was.
Okay.
But that it was it was attributed to Stephen Avery, but it never really, for whatever reason, it never really went anywhere. I mean, it's a 6-page report, and I'm just scrolling through it here. And I'm pretty sure, let me go back to the top. I'm pretty sure that Conrad is the one that wrote this up, but I could be wrong here. You see Stephen's name is listed here.
And that's on an official police report. Is that
That's right.
from Manitowoc County, or is that from the county up north, Marionette?
Well, this on a Manitowoc County form, as you can see over here to the right, but it says it happened in Marionette on the left here. But if you see upper right, it's the Manitowoc County report.
Right. So nobody at Marionette evidently was involved in this report.
Well, no, apparently not. I mean, I think I do remember.
Wonder if we could like do some news research some news back then.
Yeah, probably. Welcome back. I'm pretty sure I remember Christina trying to find anything from Marinette that linked Stephen Avery in some capacity, witness or whatever, like this statement here, to this child abduction. I don't think she found anything at all. Not saying that the abduction didn't happen. I'm almost positive that it did, but nothing to connect Stephen to it.
But didn't Dvorak say in the statement, or whoever made the statement, that that the mother-in-law said it had been widely reported?
Yep.
Up north, in that area, in Marionette.
Something
well,
like that.
I thought he was talking about the Sandy Morris case.
Oh, it
right?
might have been.
Maybe.
I think so.
Yeah, it could be.
But anyway, it's still a really defamatory statement.
Heck yeah, it is. What a bitch, man.
Yeah, I'm telling you, she really didn't like him at all. Anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, we know that, but to see the extent that she went to, Jesus.
Yeah, and I'll link these in once we're done here later. Okay. I'll link these the statement that I showed first from supposedly from Marcelle, and I'll link this police report as well. That way, people want to look at it, they have access to it.
Yeah, I'm just going to put up Danny Brewer fan's comment, because this is what I'm thinking the whole time I'm reading this. Is Ramona lying, or did Dvorak just need to get this information planted into the narrative and used her name with or without her knowledge? Yeah, that's
a good question. I mean, it appears to me that Dvorak is trying to plant this information that, well, he's definitely this kid. He's a suspect in abducting this child up here. I got a witness statement.
I don't know why Ramona would lie about it.
Yeah, that's, I mean, we don't know anything about her, but she seems to be genuinely surprised at what she's reading.
She does.
I mean, it sounds like she's friends with Alan and Dolores. Probably
yes.
Alan more so. But
right.
Yeah.
So either she's embarrassed when she gets on the stand here, or she's not on the stand, but it's still a sworn statement.
Yeah.
She's embarrassed, like, oh shit, what have I done? And now she's backtracking. Or
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just basically it. Or she's like, hell, I didn't say anything like that. What the hell is she talking about?
Right.
That's crazy. And at that, and in a situation like that, well, under oath, at least I think all of us that I know here, we would just tell the truth, whether we had a part in it or it was all made up by Dvorak or not. We would just tell the truth, and I hope that's what this lady's doing. But
I find it really strange. Sorry, Rhonda. Go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say, but can you imagine sitting there under oath in front of all those people, including Stephen Avery, and having to just like come up on the fly and make a decision? Am I gonna go along with what this statement says and say, yes, that all happened and I did that and I said that? Or are you just going to be honest? Because what else can you do? But be honest. I don't know. Sorry, Susan, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I find it really strange that Judy Dvorak goes to her house at midnight after Stephen's
Very,
been arrested.
very
What the hell's up with that?
right. She's not a cop or
It's not like they're close friends,
right.
according to
Right.
her.
So
That's really weird.
so then it makes me think, because I'm jaded, that Dvorak just randomly stops by her house at a mid when it wouldn't be something normal for her to do. So that
I mean,
she
had
could
she
put
been
that on the
next door?
report.
Had she been next door arresting Stephen? Did they go that late to his house?
They
You
did
know,
go
They'd
that
already
late.
been
just
arrested.
It was around midnight when he got arrested. I just don't remember Judy Dvorak being part of the posse that went,
Right.
but I could be wrong. I don't think she was, but I could be
So
wrong.
she might have
well,
been
it's
'cause
not
she was
something
at the
I
hospital,
remember.
you know.
Yeah. Was that
So
Rhonda?
well, that's what I was going to say. I know she was at the hospital. So my jaded mind makes me believe or think or speculate that Judy Dvorak made a concerted effort to stop at Mrs. Marcelle's home, have a conversation with her outside of the door for 5 or 10 minutes, like Ramona says, just so that she can put that on the statement, because that can't be disputed. I was there. She was there at that time, that night. So she just goes and has a really kind of random conversation. That's what I'm thinking might have happened. So that now, if it comes up, she can say, "Oh no, I was there. This is what time I was there. It's on the report." And then to go back the next morning at 7 a.m. is so bizarre. So bizarre.
But what Ramona originally said was she just came by and basically just told me that Stephen had been arrested.
Right.
That's about all she said.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
And that's all she had to say, but that allows her to put in a statement, in a false statement at that, from what it looks like. It allows her to say, put on that statement that she was there, and
Yeah.
Ramona can validate that. Oh yeah, she was there, and that's what the statement time says on the statement. So what a freaking liar, man. Dr. Silkman says the scary thing is, if it wasn't for the civil suit, none of this would have been known or spoken about. How
No.
many other false police reports were done against Stephen or others? So true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I mean,
That's
we
the reason.
already questioned so much of this anyway. Then when you see this kind of horse shit, come on, man.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. Well, one of them's lying, and my
Yes.
jaded mind says Dvorak is, but hey, hell, what do
Mine
I know?
too. Mine too.
Well, I just know of her extreme dislike of Stephen, so that's what makes me
Right.
say that.
Right.
Well,
Alrighty,
because
we're
wasn't it?
Go ahead.
Sorry, wasn't it the day that it was made public about Teresa missing? Oh, never mind. That wasn't Dvorak. That was yeah. Who was that? Was that Dvorak that called and said, "Hey"?
No.
Who was that?
That was DCI. That was the one that did the investigation.
I can't think of her name, but yeah.
What's her name,
Deb Strauss.
Deb Strauss.
Deb
yes.
Strauss. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know why, but I always end up getting those two mixed up for some strange reason.
Well,
Well,
I mean,
they both hated Stephen.
it's along the same thought lines. It's in the brotherhood, I guess it is. And you don't tell me these people don't talk. They're working a job just like anybody else works a job, and people talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Wow. Just really strange. Really interesting, but strange. Okay.
Let's start on line one. I
So
think
line 9, I think.
Was it
it's
line 9?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And what was it that you heard?
Just that he was trying to get her out, running her off the road and trying to get her to stop. And
I'm talking about what happened before that, where she was talking about what Stephen had been doing to her.
Oh, before that. Well, I don't know about before that.
Had you ever heard that Stephen was appearing nude on Old Y when Mrs. Morris was driving by in the early morning hours?
Yes, I heard that.
And had you heard that from Sandra Morris?
No.
Had you heard that from Bill Morris?
No.
Oh my God. From Judy Dvorak?
No.
From whom?
From patrons in the tavern of Larrabee.
Okay. Wow. Tell me some of the patrons at at the tavern in Larrabee from whom you heard that.
I don't recall exactly who I heard it from. That's a long time ago. That was gossip. That was the local neighborhood gossip. I never saw it, so
Was Mrs. Morris one of the people who was at that tavern?
yes.
The
Oh,
picture
dear.
is becoming so much clearer.
Yep.
Excuse me. So she made statements at the tavern, hadn't she, about what Stephen had been doing to her?
Objection to the form.
Yeah. Form
Yeah.
of the
Oh.
foundation.
Wait, whoa.
I'm going to join.
Yes.
So they went out bar hopping, and
Yeah.
Sandra Morse sitting there running her mouth saying this stuff, and that's where she heard it. I mean, I think that's pretty
Yeah.
clear.
And
Go
that's
ahead.
what Stephen said. That's what
Yeah.
Stephen had
Yeah.
said. That she'd
Yeah.
been running around town at the bars saying all this shit about him. Wow.
That's right.
Okay, anyway.
Mhm.
Line 18. She did make those statements. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And there was a woman named Marilee Stick who had also made those statements.
She could have.
Anybody else that you can remember who was involved in making those statements about Stephen?
No.
Do you know whether or not Stephen denied those statements?
No.
Do you know whether or not Stephen said that it was not right that Mrs. Morris was making these accusations about him because he hadn't done those things?
No.
You don't know that?
No.
Did you believe what you heard?
Yes.
Tell us why.
I really don't know why. You know, I was drinking
Did you
a bunch
ever-
of beer and
Sorry. Sorry, Susan.
just gossiping with the neighbors.
I'm sorry. Did you ever see Stephen exhibiting himself nakedly? These are weird words. In the yard when you lived next door to him?
No.
Did you ever see Stephen engage in masturbation out in the yard when you lived next door to him?
No.
Did you ever see him engage in any assaultive behavior or strange behavior with his children out in the yard when you lived next door to him?
No.
Do you know whether or not Stephen Avery had ever had any, strike that. Did you and your husband make a request of Stephen to do some repair work on a vehicle of yours?
No.
Okay. After Stephen was arrested on the evening of July 29th and 30th, and up to the time that he went on trial for having assaulted Mrs. Bernson, did you have any further discussions with Judy Dvorak about Stephen Avery?
Not that I recall.
She's probably thinking, oh, fuck, is there another statement?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you attend the Bernson trial?
No.
During the course of the Bernson trial, did you talk with Mrs. Dvorak about it at all?
Nope. No.
How did you first find out that Stephen had been exonerated in 2003?
I heard it on the news.
After you heard it on the news, did you talk about it with your husband?
Yes.
After you heard it on the news, did you talk about it with anybody else?
Specifically, I don't recall. I mean,
Do you recall any other people with whom you discussed it?
well, with my children, I imagine, the two older ones.
When did you move from Old County Y?
In 2001, September of 2001.
So you were living in Mishicot when it became public that Stephen had been exonerated?
Yes.
Do you know whether or not Mrs. Dvorak continued to live in the old neighborhood?
As far as I know, she's still living there.
Okay. At any time after you heard that Stephen had been exonerated in September of 2003, did you talk about that at all with Mrs. Dvorak?
No.
At any time after you heard Stephen had been exonerated in September of 2003, did you talk about that at all with Sandra Morris?
No.
Did it surprise you when you found out that Stephen had been exonerated?
Yes, a little bit.
Other than the members of your family that you've told us about, that you talked with about Stephen having been exonerated, did you talk about it with anybody else?
I would imagine in the course of conversation it came up, but I couldn't recall with who.
You don't remember?
I mean, no.
You don't remember any other person?
Just everybody at the bar. Sorry.
It's okay.
No. My answer is no.
You were served with a subpoena to testify here today.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Would you mark that, please? Would you mark that, please?
Exhibit 129.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 129, ma'am, and ask you to take a moment and examine that. Is that a copy of the letter and subpoena you received?
Yes.
The subpoena calls for certain documents for you to produce documents if you have them. Do you see that description here?
Yes.
Did you have any documents answerable to that description?
No.
So you didn't have any newspaper clippings or anything like that?
No.
All right. After you received that subpoena, did you talk with any other person whatsoever about having received the subpoena?
Just my husband.
Anybody else?
No.
Did you receive any inquiries or have any conversation with any of the lawyers in this case?
No.
Have you met Miss Doyle, the woman sitting to your left, before today?
No.
Did you talk, and without telling me the contents, did you talk with any lawyer before coming here today after you received the subpoena?
No.
Have you talked with Sandra Morris in the last 10 days?
No. Nope.
With Judy Dvorak in the last 10 days?
No.
Judy Dvorak's changed her name, is that right?
That I don't know.
You don't know whether she's remarried?
No, I don't.
That's all, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you want to go? Do you want me to go? Let me just... Oops, I almost fell over there. I'm going to come around the table so I can ask you a few questions.
Maybe he's been at the bar.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want me to switch with Tim? Do you want to switch me with me, Tim? Jesus.
No. It's going
I think
to
you've been at the bar. Think you've been at the bar too. Jesus Christ, you all out there?
No, it's not going to take me that long, Walter. Mr. Bascom. My name is Tim Bascom, and I represent Manitowoc County.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Kelly asked you a number of questions concerning the statement that you gave to Judy Dvorak that evening. Do you remember he was asking you those questions?
Yes. Yes.
From what I heard, where I was sitting, would it be fair to say that your memory of the interview is somewhat hazy?
Yes.
Object.
What's your objection?
Form and leading.
Well, this is your witness, Walter. You noticed this deposition. I didn't have no relationship with this witness.
That's my objection.
This interview took place over 20 years ago, true?
Yes.
Do you remember everything that Judy Dvorak said to you that night?
No.
I'm just going to maintain a question.
That was not a lead-in question.
I'm asserting it was, and I'm maintaining a standing objection.
Do you remember everything that you said to Judy Dvorak that night?
No.
Do you remember all of the topics of discussion between you and Judy Dvorak that night?
No.
That's all I have. Oh, I jumped then.
Do you need me to come over there? I don't have very many. I think you testified that you did not attend the Berenson trial.
No, I did not.
Did you follow it generally in the newspapers?
Generally, but not in depth.
You were certainly aware it was going on
Yes.
at the time it was occurring.
Yes.
Did you believe that this was something that Stephen Avery could have done?
Yes.
I don't have anything further. Ms. Doyle, I just have one question. On Exhibit 127, I believe you testified that it appeared that it was your signature at the bottom of page 1.
Yes.
Is that correct? Does it appear that your signature is also located on the bottom of page 2?
Yes.
That's all I have.
Mr. Kelly, Ms. Kaiser asked you a moment ago if you thought that what Stephen was accused of with respect to the assault on Mrs. Berenson could have been done by him. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you said yes.
Yes.
What was the basis for your belief?
Probably the incident with Sandy Morris.
Tell me about that. What caused you to think that because of the incident with Sandy Morris, Stephen might have sexually assaulted Penny Berenson?
I don't know. That's just my opinion. I mean, it's the way I felt.
And you don't remember why?
No.
That's all I have.
Reporter says we're done. Great
Boy,
job,
that was
team.
interesting, wasn't it?
Very
Yeah, it
interesting.
was. Very entertaining.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
Danny Brewer fan. I just got to put this up while it's still in context for me. Are you guys
I'm not
drinking every time they don't recall?
Right.
Shots.
Sounds like it.
Oh, that was crazy. Sorry about that.
You know, I have a feeling she was doing some lying in there.
Well, remember, Steve was he was sitting there, so she's talking in front of him now, so.
Right. But I'm guessing that she gossiped about it just as much as Judy and Sandra
Well,
did.
that's kind of what the feeling I'm getting, too.
Yeah. And she may have said some things that weren't true, and she's got Stephen sitting there.
Right?
And she's not going to
Now
admit to
lying.
Yeah.
See what Barb says, that there was all lies? Yeah. It's terrible. It's terrible. It really is, Barb. It's just terrible. Like I said, I'll put both those documents I put up there a minute ago, the Dvorak report, which is included in the Manitowoc County Police report. I'll put these in the description for anybody who wants to read them for themselves. Come to their own conclusions. It's just crazy. Oh, I didn't mean to put this up. Hold on. Let me put this back on screen. The next time we do depositions, which I don't know if we'll do it again next week. It's going to be Sandra Morris.
I've
Same
missed
day,
a
right?
lot of depositions, but I'm glad I didn't miss this one.
Yeah.
Which
this
one?
one's Sandra Morris is coming next time we do depositions. Hers is
Oh.
Looks like it's 72 pages total, so it's probably like 64, 65 pages with the before the index. Yeah. So, but this is one we'll be doing next, and it's interesting too. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
This one was pretty interesting, but pretty masterful of Glenn and Kelly to put these two back to back. I think.
Well, we actually get to see some of the video of Sandy
Yes.
Morris. Yeah.
That's right.
And making
Yeah.
a murder.
Yeah. Well, we've got that clip that I've got it somewhere. You know, there's
We don't
6
have
clips.
the entire thing though, right?
No. Mm-mm. No.
Yeah.
I do have one entire video, but I'm not going to play it. Just not.
One
I don't know
entire
where I get
video of what?
one of the depositions.
Oh. Which one?
But
Can you say?
well, if I could remember, I could. Let me get this off screen here while you're all talking. I don't remember which one it is, but I'll take
Another
this
Talk
down.
about
senior
it. You're going to
moment.
have to share
It's
it.
okay. You don't have to look it up.
No, it's
just
fine. You
curious.
guys, yeah, it's fine. I can take here in just a second. You guys can talk for a second. I can look.
Well, I'm guessing for sure that yes, Sandra Morris Judy Dvorak went during the arrest of Stephen, went to his house. She was right next door there. I mean,
Well, it seems fair
it
enough that
makes
she
sense
did.
to me, and they were
Yeah.
there about that time. So, and it's her
That's right.
neighborhood, and yeah, she was at the hospital, and I'm guessing she was there.
Was Judy Dvorak the one that said not my verbiage?
Yes.
So Ramona is saying that's not my statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Judy's verbiage.
Yeah.
It's actually Dvorak's deposition that I have.
Oh, I'll have to
Yeah.
watch that sometime.
Who? I'm sorry, I missed who you said.
Dvorak.
Judy Dvorak verbiage.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And don't ask me where I got it. I don't remember. I really don't remember.
I don't recall.
Yeah.
Don't recall.
I get so many
shots.
Yeah, shots fired. I don't recall. I mean, I get so many people send me stuff and share stuff, and
Right.
over the years, I just don't remember where this came from. I really don't. But because of different things with. I mean, I could probably play some clips at some point, and that wouldn't be less than 3 minutes and under fair use that we could probably talk about. But other than that, I don't want us to get into any kind of copyright issue problems with.
Oh, that's right, because that company is so.
Yeah, he's such an ass.
Dick-like.
Oh my God, he's terrible. He's absolutely. He treated Banana Man so bad.
Yeah.
And then it
Very
looked
good.
to me like for Colburn's trial, they got the depositions, but I think they paid next to nothing for him.
Well, I was told
It's
they
in
paid
the
a lot.
paperwork.
Yeah, I was
It's in
told
the
they paid a lot.
paperwork.
Yeah,
You can see it in the receipts.
Oh,
I
the receipts.
I remember us reading through the receipts. I just don't remember the cost associated. I just know I was told they paid a lot by who.
If I recall, it was like $75 each or something ridiculously cheap.
Mm-hmm.
That is like nothing. We could have easily afforded that. We could have gotten them
yeah.
all.
Yeah.
They probably got a deal because Manitowoc likes what they're putting out, or Calumet, whoever has them.
Right.
The court reporter, whoever.
Yeah.
Barb says Sandy was always attention getter and always drinking in the bars. We remember that, Barb. Stephen talking about how she was going around town in all the bars, making up all these lies and rumors about him, and that's why he was so angry with her.
She
Hey, it
even
sounds like-
admitted it in her
sound like-
deposition.
Sound like Ramona was
I might
out
have.
there bar hopping too.
Yeah, yeah,
It does.
Yeah,
I mean,
one of her bar hopping buddies and a neighbor.
that's right.
yep, yeah. Just
But they weren't exactly friendly. They didn't do anything together, she said.
Yeah, well,
But
maybe she
probably
just doesn't remember. Maybe she just doesn't remember.
sat well, maybe she sat across the bar from her, but they weren't chummy, you know.
It's very possible. Very
Maybe she
possible.
didn't
I've been,
like her much.
Yeah.
you know, most of us that are a little older, you know, have had times probably younger too. You know, you go to the bar with your
Which-
pals and
Which
Barb,
kind
did
of,
you know Marcella? I'm wondering.
Ramona?
Or
Yeah,
Ramona.
did you know her? Did you know Ramona Marcella, Barb? We don't know who. I didn't know who. I've never heard of her.
well, other than her being in this deposition, I hadn't either.
Well, yeah.
They're related.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, first got
They are
The
kind of
husband.
related.
the,
Yeah.
the husband.
So what I'm thinking is, and Susan, you said, I think I heard you say something, maybe they weren't friends or maybe they weren't very chummy or something. So
Yeah.
that kind of makes me think, because I'm thinking as we're reading this and she's like seeming so surprised at this statement, she doesn't seem to know anything about it. I was wondering, why wouldn't Judy have gone to, what's her name? Whatever her name is, Marcella lady, Ramona. Why
Ramona.
wouldn't she have gone to her and said, hey, I just was thinking, I guess, that when they were neighbors or whatever, that they were chummy enough with each other that I was thinking that Dvorak would have went to Ramona and said, hey, this is the statement I wrote about when I was here last night. Just look it over really quick, read through it really fast, and we're gonna, get and sign it, or I'll sign it, because it's the same writing. And just so you know, in case anybody ever comes and asks you about any of this, this is what is in this statement. I was thinking as we were reading it, why didn't Dvorak do that with Ramona? But when you said that, Susan, about maybe they weren't very chummy or maybe they weren't really that close of friends, that makes sense. That she wouldn't be able to, she's not going to trust somebody that she's not like joined at the hip with that, with that huge of a lie. So in my head, everything said made perfect sense. I don't know if it made sense to anybody else.
There was also the anonymous report. Remember about Stephen to the cops about his behaviors at that time? And Sandra would not cop to that, to writing it.
Right.
Maybe it was
says yes.
Ramona.
Yeah. Yes, Barb knows of Ramona, or knew of Ramona.
Ramona Marcelle.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, yeah, they had the cabin next to theirs up in Marinette also.
Up in, is that Crivets?
Crivets.
Or Crivets, yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Ramona that did the anonymous reporting. And
I
she
looked
still
him up.
wants to be anonymous.
Ramona's still alive, but her husband passed away in 2022.
Yeah, they're getting pretty old
That's
now at
Wayne's
this point.
wife. Wayne and my dad used to hang together, she said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wayne's
Wayne's the husband. Yeah, Wayne's the husband's name.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's born in 40.
That's the honey that Susan referred to.
She said she was born in 45. Didn't she say?
Yeah.
Yes, she was born in
Oh,
45.
she's 55, 75.
She's my mother's
said
age, so
78.
8, yeah.
Yeah.
Her husband was a couple years older than her.
That was very interesting.
Yeah, this one I knew that everybody would kind of get a rise out of this one because one of them's lying. There's no doubt about it. One of them's lying.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I think we can assume, or I can assume in my own brain, I just assume that Judy Dvorak is a liar. Now, whether Ramona was trying to lie wherever she got
Distance
she could
herself
for
from
her. Yeah, there's a better way to say
or-
it. Yeah. Yeah, we don't. I don't know. Interesting. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to read Judy Dvorak's parts or
Sandra
deposition.
Morris.
Sandra Morris. What did I say?
You said
Judy?
you said Judy Dvorak. Judy Dvorak.
I meant Sandra Morris.
Yeah.
God.
She says she thinks Dvorak and Ramona were friends.
Just so
Well,
you guys know, it's 24-16. San Francisco just scored to see if they make their field goal, which they probably will. So it'll be 24-17.
Who's leading?
Lions are leading.
Lions are winning.
Good.
Yep, they're winning.
All right.
Yep.
That's
mean,
a
that's
high
good.
scoring game.
Yeah.
Hey, I think
And
it's
I'm
been a while
good,
since I like I said, I don't really follow pro ball, but I think San Francisco's really not been in the playoff hunt for
They
a
haven't
while
been in
either.
for a long time. I don't. I
Yeah.
mean, I was a big fan. I was when Steve Young was the quarterback. So they just got a
Oh, years
field
ago
goal
I was too.
Yeah.
Yep, years ago
Yeah.
I was too. I thought they had a great
And
team.
I maybe they've been a great team other times since Steve Young, but I don't think I remember that as much. But they did just get one of those what is it, field goals. So now it's
I'm saying
17.
Dvorak and Ramona are sort of related in some way.
Well, yeah. Oh, Dvorak. Oh, geez.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Yep.
Interesting.
And Sandra and Stephen were related.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Sort of by
Sandra's
marriage.
husband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Silkman give credence that either law enforcement or someone who had a beef with Stephen wrote the sticky keynote. Well, again, you know, we just got these.
God, that note has made my brain spin so many times.
Oh, all of us.
Yeah, I think everybody.
Yeah.
The hell is Sicky? Sicky.
As always, you guys do such a great job reading. I mean, we're pretty practiced. I won't say we're professionals, but we're damn close. So
Thank you, Jack.
you guys always do such a great job. Hopefully everybody
You
out there
guys all
gets.
do a great job. I struggled tonight. Sorry, it's been a while since I've read a deposition. So.
Well, you've been out drinking. You went out drinking with.
Yeah, I've been out drinking.
Doing all those shots.
I was doing all the shots. Yep.
That was pretty funny, actually.
Uh,
All right. Well, I don't really see too many questions. There's been some great commenting. Again, thanks to Catnip for digging that last Netflix report out for me. I was actually had just flipped over to Google to my drive to see if I could find it right quick, and boom, I get a message on Discord. She popped it in there for me.
You got to be faster. You can't be screwing around with going to Google and getting to.
I know. Well, I mean, if I wasn't
anything on Catnip or
if I didn't have to scroll, I could have done it faster in my defense, but I don't know if I probably couldn't have found it as fast as Kat did. So, bravo to her. You want to read that, Rhonda?
Yes. Mr. Precedent says, in my opinion, Kratz wrote the loopy K Sikiki note trying to make it look like Stephen Avery wrote it. So they could tell Scott T that Stephen Avery was guilty and trying to frame him to get him to invent a fire. And then he's tagging Barb in that.
Well, I mean, you know, if you look at Stephen's writing and the Sikiki note writing, there are some similarities, but to me, that note looked like, I mean, it really looked like somebody was trying to alter their writing, or it was somebody that really had terrible penmanship. And I don't mean that negatively. I can't write cursive either. It looks like somebody hit me in the head and I was trying to write. But I can print. I used to be able to print very well. So.
when I remember looking at that, I was thinking that it was somebody trying to look like somebody who was uneducated had written it, who was not completely illiterate, but
But close to it. Yeah.
but close to illiterate. That's what I
Yeah.
was thinking whenever I would read that note. So
Yeah. It's drove so many of us insane. I finally just had to give up on it.
yeah, it's not even a part of my mind anymore.
No, it's like trying to run down the chain of custody for the barrels, the burning barrels. I dare anyone to properly run that down and follow it. You can't. It's not possible. It's just not possible.
Oh, she says the Averys and Ramona are kind of related, I think is what she's saying.
Oh, what Barb's saying?
Yeah.
I've been looking it up. Alan's mother was a Mott, so it might be George's mother.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
There was somebody else that's a Mott too that's kind of on the sidelines here, and I'm trying to remember where that connected.
That Joseph Mott, he passed away just recently. I think he had something to do with something. I can't remember what though.
Yes, that's right. I remember there's a DCI
Wayne and
interview.
Allen are some.
Wayne and Allen are what?
Sort of related.
Apparently. Yeah, but there's a DCI report I know on the Motts that they interviewed them, and I remember that. I don't remember which number it is right now, but okay. What's that?
Ma's maiden name, is it?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Oh, it looks like the Niners are a touchdown and a field goal away from tying, and there's 4 minutes left in the third quarter. Yeah.
Yeah, there's time. They still have time to.
A lot of time at this point. Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, great information in this one. So.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. These two here, and I'm sure that next time we get back into depositions, we're going to be hitting Senator Morris. But I think that next week, this is going to be a much larger project in a big sense. It's starting to go through the CAISO dispatch calls because, there are a number of reasons, and I'm not gonna play everything in the CAISO dispatch calls because you have to understand that Manitowoc is probably set up maybe in the same way, but CAISO does it differently. They had 15 channels. That's what they call them for each day. But not every day has something from each channel. And not every channel is even relevant. They have a fire channel. They have a highway department channel.
They made it. Oh, sorry. Touchdown. Sorry.
Yep. No, you're fine. You're fine. It looks like we're fixing to
tie
the game.
Is the Super Bowl. Isn't it?
Yeah, whoever wins this plays the Chiefs.
Yep.
Yeah,
in
this
Las
is
Vegas. Is that next week or 2 weeks from?
2 weeks, I think, but I'm not sure.
I think it's 2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. Barbara says none of us wrote that. Oh, the Sikiki she's talking about.
No, I've never.
That
was never a thought in my mind.
No, mine neither. No, I don't think that comes from anywhere on the Avery salvage yard. It's such a. I don't even know what the right word is for that. No, like a quagmire. That's probably a good word. It's such an oddity of the case.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Sure is.
All right.
Oh, that's right. Joe and Sandy are brother and sister. Okay, that's what was said by this Marcelle lady, Ramona. And she was describing the
relationship
history in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, the relationship. Yeah. All righty. If everybody's done, I want to get us out of here. That's going to be amazing being done before 9 o'clock on an open mic. I know it's weird.
No.
Yeah, so strange.
I can eat.
Yeah, we're having something. I don't know. I smell something smells good in there. And I heard the granddaughter still squeaking around. I'm surprised she's not asleep yet, but I know that's getting very close to time for her to be going down. So, I'm going to think. Oh, sorry. The When I started in on the queso dispatch recordings, there's really basically only two channels that I'm going to really focus on, and that's channel 6 and channel 7. That's where the bulk of the information that's really relevant is going to come from. And even in those calls, there's so many that are I'm not going to say they sent everything's in there, because I know that these queso calls were edited, but there's a lot. Most of it's in channel 6 and channel 7. Now there are a few. There's probably one day they do have an internal jail channel. There's some really pretty hilarious shit that gets said between these jailers that are there, the officers that were there, because they have doors open. But there's some pretty funny stuff I may play as a highlight, something to cackle at. But other than that, it's mainly going to be channel 6 and channel 7. And even in that, I'm probably going to forward through things that are completely irrelevant. I don't want to hear about somebody having a cat stuck in their tree, or a wreck that's completely irrelevant, or somebody's house gets broken into. It's irrelevant. I'm just gonna fast forward through it, just so everyone understands that. I was thinking about how to do this, because I think it's good to, again, re-review, re-listen to what we have. So enough about that.
All right, and don't forget to come to Just Rhonda's channel Thursday afternoon at 5 p.m. Central. We're going to start a trial transcript.
There you go.
Woo-hoo.
And I'm not sure if Amy's having something on Monday. She normally does on Monday nights. Isn't that right, Rhonda? Cherie?
Yeah, she. Catnip. Yeah, she's planning something. She's not quite sure where she wants to go with.
But it's supposed to be for Monday, right? That's
the last I heard was Monday. So yeah.
Yeah.
Catnip says, Amy, I want to hear about the cat in the tree.
Yeah, I saw that. She's such a nut.
So funny.
That's so funny. Yeah, she is. But I do want to thank everyone for hanging out with us and going through these depositions. We don't have that many more to go. So we'll be done hopefully here I want to say in the next 2 months, hopefully we'll have all of them done. We've knocked out a couple. Some of them, I think, well, I'm not going to say that. I think, though, that we're through the really long ones. Brenda Peterson's was a nightmare, because hers was like 4 hours or something. It's insane how long hers was. But I think most of the rest of these are quite a bit shorter. So hopefully we can get those done. Let's see here. Probably not by the end of September, depending on how I do the queso dispatch calls, but certainly sometime, hopefully by mid-March, we'll be done with them, and they'll be in the books. I will attach these two documents. I will attach the two other documents in the description, the reports, so anybody that wants them can have them. I want to thank my readers, my wonderful readers, everybody that's here, Susan, Rhonda, Jay, Cherie, and everybody that's listen to us, hey, why is it not? There we go. I don't know why that wouldn't work. It's lagging so bad. There we go. So with that said, I'm going to say good night, everybody. Hope your team wins, whoever tonight. And it's been a Foul Play production.